Party people. Oh my goodness. It's so good to see y'all. I hope y'all can see me. I mean, not to make any kind of awkward jokes right now, but you know, the lighting is a little weird. So I ain't got my lamp in here just yet. It's coming. Hopefully this might make it a little bit better. We'll just leave it alone. We'll just leave it alone. Welcome back to the Truth Project. We missed you guys last week, had some things come up. And so the stream was pushed back to this week, but we are so excited to be having this conversation with you, man. I want everybody in the chat, no matter where you're watching, YouTube, Twitch, Maverick.tv, drop where you're watching this from. And I also want to hear, if you don't answer that, I also want to hear maybe a part 2 or a B answer. How long have you been tuning into the Truth Project? I definitely want to be catching that. I know there's some veterans in here. There's some people that are coming in that are fresh on the scene. We got a mixture, so I definitely want to hear that. So again, drop your location, where you're watching this from, and how long have you been watching the Truth Project? I'd love to hear it. Shout out to everybody on YouTube and Twitch, and also don't forget, for those of you on YouTube and Twitch, we actually have a free Ninja membership available to you while we're live. Okay, so definitely go ahead and get your Ninja membership, sign up. After that's $9.99 a month, but you're getting so much more value than the price you're paying. Tournaments, beef streams, exclusives, all of that and more. And so we definitely want you guys to be a part of this. And of course, without further ado, we all know why we're here, to get to truth, man. We're having all kinds of conversations, things that are surrounding us culturally, and of course, trying to bring it back to a biblical point of view. It's not your ordinary Bible study, but if you don't believe in Christ, you're welcome here too, man. We all have these questions, these concerns, these thoughts, these perspectives, all these things that are coming around us with one common goal to get the truth. And so we welcome you at the table, whatever worldview you carry. It is available and willing to have conversation here with open hearts and open minds, man. And we're just excited that you could have been anywhere. I know Thursday Night Football is back in town. The season has kicked off. So you could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here. And for that, we are mighty grateful. All right. So how we're going to do this is we're going to start this off with some prayer. We're going to kick this to a quick video, just highlighting the topic of discussion tonight. I do believe we are finalizing our series of the lost art of love this week. So definitely hope you guys have been getting something out of this series, have been enjoying it. Definitely something we're going to be highlighting and kind of discussing throughout this conversation, if this is what I think it is. If it's something different, you'll know by the time we kick it to this video. So we're going to pray, jump into that, and then come back for just some dialogue, some questions, some Q&A, and just having some good conversation for another week's worth of study and time spent together in community. All right, so let's pray and dive into this together. Lord, we thank you. We love you. We ask for your wisdom, your presence in this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Maverick fam, welcome to another week inside of the Truth Project. Now, this is actually a very special week. I have a bit of an announcement. I'll be talking about that after the video, though, so make sure you stick around, please. Now, we're also, this is also an important video because we're finishing the series that we're in, the lost art of love. And we've been going through each dimension. We've talked about finances. We've talked about love in the area of our mind and our body. We've talked about love in our relationships. And now we're finishing things off with the lost art of love when it comes to our relationship with God, okay, in the area of our faith. Because it's really, really easy to say we love God. I mean, it's really easy for us to say we love anything, but where's the proof at, right? In our actual actions and how we follow those words up. And I think we can be a bit selfish when it comes to God. And I want to talk about that a little bit. And so I have 3 main points, and we're going to call them 3 levels. All right. And I feel like if you can access each of them, you go to a whole new level and a whole new experience with God. What is the first one? The first level is truth. Now, oddly enough, I genuinely think the majority of people actually miss this. This is something we're so good at lying to ourselves, lying to others, that we think we're being real even when we aren't. Like, when I really started to understand this in my life, I felt so exposed because growing up, I don't know. I thought I was something that would keep it real. I think if you reach out to people that grew up with me, they'd be like, yeah, Dion was a ninja that kept it real. Until I realized I wasn't. There's so many little ways that we lie, again, even to ourselves, maybe even in lying about our true intentions about something. And I'm not talking about things that you blatantly know. I'm saying sometimes we got to slow down enough, be self-aware enough to realize that sometimes we aren't doing things for the reasons that we maybe put off to the world and to people. And as I really start to have this level of self-accountability and self-awareness, like I said, I don't know, I just felt exposed. Once we're at least moving in truth, okay, we're not pretending to be someone, because God can't pretend who you're trying to be. And often I think it's worth noting, even in our most intimate relationships, where we're being extremely honest with someone, it could never be on the level that it is with God, because God is truth. And so in all of our other relationships that we're ever used to having, you can manipulate them in a way that you can't manipulate God. Okay, I can tell you guys one thing, but have an ulterior motive, okay, and bad pronunciation. But with God, I can't have something behind my back. He's gonna see right through it. And so that's why this is the first step, is we have to get comfortable and consistent in moving in truth. Okay, and then once we have that first level, then we can move to the next level, which is relationship. And this is about, relating to God in a way that is about Him in you, but not just what you can get from him. Now, a lot of us, again, in the same way that we pretend that we have the first step, we can fool ourselves in thinking this, like, oh, it's all about you, God, this or that. But then an easy tell is, how do you act when things don't go your way? All right, when we have to trust God on his timing, or you're just not getting something that you want, how are you moving? Right? And maybe you might still be doing the things you need to do, but you're doing it complaining. You know, you're going to church, you're reading your Bible, but you got an attitude and you're a little upset, and you still even feel like you're waiting and that you deserve something. These are signs that you're in it for what you can get out of it. Just flip the script, dip the chip for you in any of your relationships. If someone, you know, withdrew from you when you had less money and you couldn't buy them as many things or do things for them, how would that make you feel? But if we're being honest, that's how a lot of us move with God. Now, I believe you can do those first 2 steps and still not have done this third one. And maybe you get, like the other 2, you can convince yourself you're doing it, but it usually is a lot more difficult than it may appear on the surface. And this third level is all about death. Now, hear me out. I do not mean like Christ on the cross, okay? I don't even think that's what he meant when he talked about us picking up our cross. I believe there's this death of what most might call the ego, or our own selfish desires in the way that we have to have things work out in the world. And I truly believe to have that highest experience that honestly all of us really want with God, that has to happen. Because when we have these selfish goggles on, it limits not just how we see the world, but how we see God. Okay, we'll see him through our own experiences, and we'll only allow things to happen how we can see them coming, you know, how we expect them. And one of the best things you can do with God is let your expectations die, because then the unexpected can happen. Think of some of the most amazing things that happen in your life are the way that they are, and are as powerful, maybe as amazing as they are, is because some of it is, and maybe even the majority of it, is unexpected. Okay, our reach across the world and even just our entire experience online has been unexpected. And not to say we didn't have goals, we definitely had vision. I'm just saying our vision was way smaller than this. And so I'm so grateful that we weren't clinging to that, because God was trying to do things even bigger. And so, but again, it's not doing something so you will get it, because that's what needs to die. That is still selfish. It's truly saying, hey, I'm not in it for what I can get out of it. I'm not trying to get a successful career or a certain status or family. It's just, I want you. And when you let that selfishness die, that's almost the best way I know how to describe what replaces that. Is it's just pure God. Okay, that fruit of the spirit. And so much magic can happen when we get out of the way in almost every area of our life. And so to summarize, we got the 3 levels. First is truth, second is relationship, and the third is death. Now I want you to, of course, I want this to be interactive, man. So please let me know your thoughts. Out of those 3, are there some that you struggle with more than others? Do you feel like you struggle with all of them? And if so, let us know in what ways. All right, whether you struggle with the truth, the relationships, or the death of the ego part. Please let me know in the comments. I will be, as soon as this video's done, you're gonna see either me or Grape, and then some more of me. All right, so I'll share some of my thoughts there and then get into the announcement. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Man, this conversation is going to be good. This definitely is a good way to cap off the series for sure. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on everything that was kind of presented to us in the opening, man. What were your thoughts? Any place that you struggle with most? Again, exclamation point notes in the chat is where you'll be able to get access to the notes from today's stream. So definitely be sure to check that out. And man, without further ado, Bishop, I know you took over.
Yes.
Yeah, what's up? What's happening?
Yeah. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys being here, man, as always. So shout out to Hayes. See you there, man. Dropping a question early. We'll definitely get to that, man. And definitely feeling for you in his passing. But yeah, definitely, guys, drop your questions and then give me your thoughts. If you caught the whole video, I want to know where you think you struggle, if any, when it comes to this moving with love inside of our relationship with God. You know, the areas of truth, the areas of relationship, and that area of death of the ego. You know, you can even give me a rating like we've done in previous installments. Would love that. I feel like that's a great conversation starter. But I do have a heads up for you guys that I wanted to. It's bittersweet, man. And so I'm not going to delay. I'm just going to lay it on you guys. So this is going to be our final episode of the Truth Project, as you guys know it. And the reason I said it's bittersweet is nothing's really ending outside of the name and the routine of us meeting on Thursdays. But a lot of you guys know we've been coaching for years. Actually, a lot of you guys that are most consistent are part of, you know, a different part of our coaching in different levels. And so we're just more consolidating things. And so we won't be meeting here live on Thursday here anymore, whether it's on Twitch, YouTube, or Maverick.tv. Although we are going to do something. So for those that don't know, it's been at least 2 years, maybe even closer to 3. Am I right? In 3 years we've been running this thing?
Man, I think 4. Started in 2020.
4? Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So we've said a lot. We've covered a lot. And what we're going to do is we're going to really just take like a trip down memory lane. So maybe over the next 4 years, again, we're going to replay episodes on the same place and same time as like a premiere on YouTube, as we, you know, even get some of that library over there. But and in that, we're going to have a call to action that'll have more details. And we'll also follow up with you guys in the Truth Project Discord. We're just going to be doing things a little bit differently. And so you guys notice how we've been doing like the study guides and trying to get a little bit more hands-on with things. I want you guys to think that, but honestly, a little bit better. So there's no less Jesus, no less truth, just doing it within our coaching. And we've rearranged how we're doing some of our coaching stuff. And so you'll still have me, you'll still have Great. Luke will still be around. PD's inside of this community that we have, and we even have more guys there. So it's going to be more and better, but in a different place. And so more details on that to come. But that's the bittersweet portion. Like just this thing that's been a routine for, man, like Grape said, I guess almost 4 years now, is transitioning. Man, that should have been the last episode. I should have did something on transition or something
that's a
like
previous episode that we've done, man.
All right, so it is.
We can let that be the first episode we air. You know?
Yeah, I like that. That. And that just speaks to a little bit of why we're transitioning this, man. We've hit on a lot of topics, man, and almost anything you can think of, a few different ways. We done smacked it, flipped it, rubbed it down, and we got it there for you guys. But like I said, we'll still have it for those that kind of enjoyed this as like a bit of an injection into your week, because it kind of does feel like a little midweek service. You guys can still have that, can still gather in the comments for that. But like I said, it'll just be different. Now, that being said, shifting over to this conversation, man, if I had to pick an area where I feel like I definitely struggle, it's that death of the ego, man. And I feel like, and that's where I've noticed, at least personally, where when you can get some of the other ones a little bit easier, but when you really allow your mind to be free of your expectations, at least them ruling over you, the unexpected can happen. And a lot of that is God. And I think sometimes we're just in fear of the unknown, fear of the unexpected. But if you, man, get in your Bible, some of the most amazing stories that we are always retelling have a huge amount of surprise, unexpectedness. And I think sometimes we miss the beauty and even some of the blessings of God because we are just trapped in our tiny experience of what we want to happen. I believe I shared in the video, man, and I wish I still had it, but I had my initial goals for YouTube when we first got on there, and I'm pretty sure like 10,000 subscribers was at the top of it. It was like my one goal, like, yo, we out. Like, I felt like I was PewDiePie if we hit that. And what if God was like, bet, let's rock with that. Let's go with your plan. You know, so many of y'all wouldn't have been here. I don't know that any of y'all were here in the first 10,000. And so it's like, I really appreciate that. And it definitely is a transition period, but I think it's weird, man. I think when we love God with everything we got, it's never as bad as we think, because we're imagining submitting to God fully and all the pain is going to cause us, but we're doing it while looking through the lens of selfishness. But submitting to God fully is letting go of that selfishness. And so a lot of that pain, the disgruntledness, the frustration that you imagine living God's way, I really don't feel like it's there, because you get something much better. And so that's a little bit of my mantra, my constant reminder to myself, because I've tasted and I've seen, and it's frustrating. Even I'll be mindful to the point where I notice myself. How I envision it in my head is like, sometimes when my kids are younger and they're just so bad, like you'll tell. I remember my son, he used to love to, anything he could get, he would try to stick it in the like the little electrical socket, and then it's like, cool, you get the little plugs that go in the electrical socket. He likes to use the thing to try to pry the electrical socket off, so he's like just constantly trying to be over there. And I remember he'd be 2, and I'd watch him walk across the room. I'd be like, DJ, don't do it. DJ, no. DJ, he just keep walking the whole time while he's looking at me, and knowing what he's doing is off limits, that he shouldn't be doing it. And he just chooses. And you know, he's lucky his father ain't God, because if I could, I'd let him catch a few volts if I knew it wouldn't kill him. You know, catch a little zip, zap. All right, he'll never do it again. But I feel myself, that's like what I see when I see myself sometimes. It's like, oh no, I'll be in a place where I'm good. I'm feeling the fruit of the spirit. I'm on point. And someone may say something. It might be my kids. Talking about my kids might do something. And I'll watch myself go pick up the ego and grab frustration or offense or whatever it may be. And it's like, why, Dion, don't do that. You know, you shouldn't, you know, it's not good for you. And so, and that can be frustrating in your process when you are watching your dumb self just sit in something that you feel like you're better, you're above. So I would say that was probably my talking point, my biggest area. I'd love to hear from you guys, like I said, in the comments, and then you too. Great.
For sure, man. I think trying to find just some spaces of scripture to kind of refer a lot of this to. I think for me, I definitely can agree that the ego is probably the biggest struggle. Just because it's so easy for it to show up. And I think the more I've grown, the more it gets harder to ignore and easier to find. And so I can't really overlook it. Like it's staring me in the face. And I'm always presented with a decision on how I'm going to respond. And it's now become to the point where if I navigate in the ego and I'm alive in it, it's happening in the moment. It doesn't take moments, minutes. It's like literally seconds after I've just lived in it, where it just starts like, okay, so you did that, but like, was that needed? Was that necessary? You know, did you really have to put yourself in that position to experience that? And I really think there's some spaces in scripture that kind of elaborates more and more on what that ego looks like at its core. And so I definitely want to take some time to get to that, hopefully throughout some of this conversation. But when you talk about the other two instances, when you talk about truth, and when you talk about death, I believe is what you mentioned, truth, ego, and death. Is that the three? And so
close. Truth. Just making sure we're walking in truth. Can't
right.
Us who we pretend to be. Relationship
there
with God for the sake of it, not what we get out of it. And then death. Okay.
Truth, relationship, death. Yeah. And so, well, and I think, again, ego plays a role in all of that. Right. And so, when I think about those three things, the scriptures that come to mind when I think of death, I think of 1 Corinthians 15, which is a part of, I believe, I'm not even going to try to quote which creed it's a part of. That's just too much. But First Corinthians 15, man, is such a powerful message in and of itself. Paul reminding the believers that he's writing to in Corinth the ultimate victory, right? Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. And it's just this transition from death to eternity, a physical death to a spiritual eternity where we will live with God forever and ever. Like, we can't even really wrap our minds around what eternity in and of itself is full of. We just know that it's never ending, right? And to be in a space of time and try to imagine something that never ends, that's like, dang, like, it's hard to really wrap your mind about that. But even though that is a portion of it, I do think what Jesus talks about in Luke 9, where he says to pick up your cross daily and follow him. So it's a death that we experience earthly. It's not we don't first experience death when we close our eyes and take our last breath. We experience death in a daily format of living where we're pursuing after the heart of Christ and understanding the costliness of such that actually sends us into regression before progression. And I say it like this, not in the sense of you are behind the 8 ball or you're set back by God or there's a whole reset button, which I guess in a way you can say there is a reset button because you're seeing life in a new lens, salvation, you're restored, you're redeemed. And so there's a whole new you that's showing up. But I would say in the sense of understanding, like, you just start seeing things that you never really paid attention to before. Really different ways of living, different ways of thinking, different ways of speaking, different ways of being that you first really didn't get a glimpse of, or you never understood its purpose. But now, because of your connection to Christ, these things are revealed to you little at a time to give you the capacity to really grow into those things. And then you begin to see so many other areas that you can really grow and be transformed for the better. And that's what that sanctification process ultimately looks like. It's a journey, right? And so, but it starts with death. Everything in the life of a believer starts at the cross, and the cross is a symbolism of death, leaving something behind, stepping into something new, transition, transformation, salvation, all of those things in between. And so I look at that and I consider that in this conversation. When you think of relationship, I mean, gosh, what endless text. I mean, good Lord. I mean, there's so many, when you look at different individuals who represented the heart and love of Christ in relationship, when you think of David and Jonathan, when you think of the marriages, right, that reflected Christ and his godliness, when you think of man, even a relationship between God and man. When you think of Moses and God, Abraham and God, you think of David and God, you think of Paul and his journey into encountering Christ, the disciples, the apostles, all these different areas where we can really hone in on relationships earthly, and which ultimately gives us a picture of what our spiritual relationship can look like. These are things that require navigation, require nuance, require so much room for failure and growth, for grace and truth, for process and determination, for a beginning and an end, for a journey and a destination, like all of these different things. And so I think it's really important throughout the scriptures. I think one thing that I've learned for me, again, I've always rooted in this, especially over the last couple of years, is 1 Corinthians 13. Like, when I really look at how I'm supposed to navigate relationships, there's a love I'm called to live that allows me to see relationships in a greater lens that isn't just for my benefit, but for the benefit of others I'm connected to. So this love is what I'm filled with by way of being connected to the greatest love. And I'm being able to grow or perfect, mature into loving more like him. That actually requires me to be disappointed, to go through grief, to go through hurt, all these different things that actually are areas of opportunity, invitations to maturity, that, not to say it will stop, but when it comes again in a different format, or it comes at a different level, a greater level, we're given the tools to be able to handle it properly and still preserve Christ and his heart in the midst of such failures, disappointments, disagreements, and issues that we'll experience relationally. Because ultimately there's an eternity, man, that we're living for, and we have the opportunity to encounter presently. So because of that, there's greater purpose than just me getting the girl, greater purpose than just me having the children, greater purpose than me just having the dream marriage, bigger purpose than me just having, labels and all those kinds of things. Like, there's so much more weight to that. And I think it's such a timely message for culture today. And we see where it's at. We see what's going on. Men and women are divided, going against each other. We have, people outside of their design nature, from masculinity and femininity, flip-flopping, not willing to live in their predominant design. We have so many things that are just happening. I mean, we could be here all day talking about it. And yet we come to a biblical space that gives us a foundation for what should be, and then gives us the strength through not only his word, but just genuine relationship with him to be able to create that in our own lives and lead other people to such. And it will cause us to be in positions that are maybe unfavorable and something that isn't really as desirable, but yet has greater purpose and greater fruit that can be gained from it. And so, when you think of relationships, that's kind of something that comes to my mind. But then, of course, truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. One of, I would say, the most unknown quoted scriptures. And when I say unknown, there's a lot of people who use that but don't even know it comes from scripture. And such a root that really resembles just the embodiment of truth. I think of that text and I just think of Pilate. Man, I think one of the most powerful scenarios and situations you see in the text is Pilate literally looking truth dead in the face and asked, "What is truth?" And instead of staying and waiting for a response, what does he do? He asks for it, and then he gets up and walks away, not even willing to give truth room to express himself and really reveal what he was really asking at his heart. And I think that is such a powerful message for us to really rest in today. A lot of us are speaking opinions, but aren't speaking truth. A lot of us are choosing to rest in our preferences and not come back to a place of reality, a place of biblical understanding, a place of really knowing that truth is a person, not something that is just picked up one day and dropped off another, not subjective, but objective, right? That has a beginning and end and a foundation. And so not, again, going back to everything that was just initiated, man, like we've lost the art of love because we've lost truth. We've lost relationship. We've lost what it actually means to be present in this life and see that death isn't the end, it's the beginning. And so we've lost sight of those things, and which culminate into the lost art of love. And so because we lost sight of those things, we don't know how to hold tension well. We don't know how to have conversation well. We don't know how to connect well, but we also just don't know how to live well. And so hopefully throughout this series and even tonight's conversation, not only are we able to reflect on maybe where we struggle with most, but also be willing to have an open heart to ask ourselves some of the more tougher questions that actually will liberate us to be able to live a life more suited for what we're designed to encounter, who we're designed to be, and being able to be a conduit of God's love, a person who preserves Christ in our lives authentically, in season and out of season, not for the sake of trying to bring out our inner Pharisee, but for the sake of trying to see somebody as a soul God loves. Therefore, we choose to love them, honor them, be gracious to them, while also keeping truth in context with our lives, not just our words, and allowing that to be a reflection in a journey of life for them to eventually encounter God for themselves through how we live and reflect it onto others. Hopefully that made sense with a lot of the stuff that I shared there. And of course, there's so much nuance we don't have enough time in the world to dive into, but just my kind of beginning thoughts to this conversation for sure.
That was beautiful. Yeah, that made tons of sense. And I feel like we were kind of on track with the chat. Most people saying they struggle with the ego. Yeah. I'll go through some of the comments here, then we'll dive into a couple questions we got. Keyshawn says, death of the ego for me, uncertainty of what's next. I feel myself getting better though. as your coach. I feel you getting better too, Keyshawn. We're talking about that a little bit earlier. Nick talking about my son moving the chair in the background of the video. Yeah. So let me read Ty's, because Nick kind of agrees with him. Ty says, I think ego would be my weakest link in those three, just for the fact that I will say I'm doing something for God, but deep down I'm questioning myself if I'm doing it for me or God. Feel that, man. Nick co-signed that, said I would agree for myself. It can be hard to test if this is something I feel like I'm doing to be proud of myself, or if I'm doing it to give all glory to God. Love that. And I kind of want to get into what Hayes had to say, because he has a question in it, and I'll let you give your thoughts on this. Great. He says, I'm not sure you remember a couple weeks ago I mentioned something heavy, but my uncle passed away last night after a year of cancer. So it's very fresh. And he said, I just wonder how to not look at this situation with anger. I know that's not the death you were referring to, but it's the one on my heart at the moment. And in a way, it is tied to the death we were talking about. But did you have any thoughts on that?
Man, how do you not look at this with anger? Well, I think what is a good place to start is saying that it's not wrong for you to be angry. Like, I know that's not something that's said a lot and said often. Actually, I want to bring up a scripture just again to have some scriptural backgrounds to this thing. Ephesians 4:26 tells us to be angry, but sin not. Right. And so Paul acknowledges in that very sentence that anger is a human emotion. Anger typically points to injustices, feeling wronged, desiring a right, all those different avenues. And of course, many more. I didn't list it all, but he just doesn't ignore the emotion of anger. He just says you can be angry. Just don't do anything out of that anger that would cause you to be disobedient, to sin, to harm others, to harm yourself, to do something that ultimately leads to regret, that ultimately leads to poor decisions that compound to poor results. Like, two wrongs never make a right. It doesn't really matter in the context. Two wrongs never make a right. But that doesn't mean that you are not in a position, or you are not willing or available to experience anger. So that's the first thing I would reach out to you, man, is that it's okay to be angry, and God knows you're angry, and God is actually willing to be present with you in your anger. I think a lot of times I don't think we give enough room to the idea of, man, I can be in tears, I can be frustrated, I can be hurt, I can be broken, and still encounter God. Still actually be pursuing after the heart of God, still praying and seeking God, even in the midst of my emotions being everywhere. I actually would say a part of the grieving process is anger. There's 5 stages to grief. There is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, right? All these stages that culminate psychologically into grieving. And it's not a measurement to tell you how long to grieve, right? None of us are in that position to do that. And in a lot of ways, none of us are really in a position to tell you how to grieve. We all grieve differently. Of course, I can give you a biblical framework to grieve properly, experiencing the anger, experiencing the frustration, experiencing the depression, but also being willing to remain in community. One of the things that is so easy for us to do in these spaces is to separate ourselves and feel as if we need to go through this alone. And I think that's a lie from the enemy, man. I really do. Because one of the things that he loves to do, is use situations and experiences in life as tools against you to cause you to separate from people you need to be connected to the most in seasons like this, because it's what's going to get you through. And so I would really start there. Just understand that anger is okay to feel. And it's just about, okay, I really just need to express and let these emotions flow and come as they go, come and go. I just need them to show up. Putting words to what you feel is often a very good remedy to experiencing that being present in it and letting it flesh out. I've said it on here before. I quote Tim Ross here. I see your question, Bryce, in the YouTube chat, man. We're going to get to that here in just a few moments. Hang with us. In the a quote that Tim Ross shares, man, he says, what doesn't come up and out of your mouth through words will come up and out of your body through actions. And so a massive win for you is to be able to put to words what you feel and be honest about what you feel to God in prayer, to others that you're experiencing this with, as a measurement of healing. James 3:16 tells us that to confess our faults one to another, for in such there is healing. Right. And so, yes, this talks about sins. This talks about wrongdoings. It talks about offenses. But there's something about being able to put words to what you feel and where you are that gives room for other people to give life and speak life into you for where you are to help you through such a season. So that's kind of where I would start. I'm not even necessarily concerned about you not being angry. I think in the long run, how you want to be able to view this without being angry is really, I guess, in a way, and this could be tough to perhaps consider, because I don't know maybe how close you and I believe you said your uncle, how close you both were. Some of the thoughts that you put in here, I have, and it's been a stressful bit of a time. I do have to struggle to be fully in faith when things do not go the way. Okay, right. Lately, besides the event the other night, I have been struggling to find work and have been praying and meditating more to get centered. But I occasionally hit a point, why is this happening to me? Which is definitely not the best way to go. Yeah. I definitely think that is a fair place to be. Job had questions in the midst of his suffering. And it's crazy to think that Job, who was the most righteous man in the land, had questions. He had questions, and God was present in the midst of all of that. And of course, we see in the end how God addresses Job. But I just think to fully address it and then kind of move on and share, or Dion, if he has anything, I would just say this. What would have been better for the person that you feel you're losing? To be in the presence of God, or to remain where they were in the condition that they were, suffering and struggling for as long as they were. That's kind of a question that even I myself actually, maybe not even asked in that way, but did have a thought towards, which actually helped me in a lot of ways put what I lost into perspective. Because I think, again, you're acknowledging that you're losing something. That's why the grieving process is occurring. But when I lost my grandmother, in the beginning of 2020, I believe, COVID had just, 2021? Okay. COVID had already been here. All this kind of stuff is happening. We got to get in our cars and travel. I remember riding in the car, coming back home from visiting my best friend and his family at the crib. They were all watching football. And of course, our families know each other well, so they understood the news of us losing a family member, to which my best friend's mother, driving, said to me, "So sorry to hear about your loss." I wasn't as extremely close to my grandmother in any kind of way, but she definitely had a role in my life. I remember her being younger, all those kinds of things. So like there was definitely some residue that she left and some impact she left on my life in some aspect. But I remember telling her that healing was either here with us and her being restored, or in his arms in heaven on the other side. So it's interesting that in that space, even in processes of asking for healing, she got what we prayed for. It just wasn't in the way that maybe we expected it, or to some degree wanted it. And so when I think about it like that, it's like, dang, that kind of helped me in a lot of ways, even dealing with loss in the future, maybe not even necessarily close to death, but just loss in the future. Dang, how selfish am I really to want to hold on and keep somebody in a position and status and state of life for my own want and well-doing. And in the midst of that, they're not even getting what we really want for them, which is healing. which is restoration, which is freedom in some kind of aspect. And, in losses where I may have taken it harder than even losing my grandmother, it's helped me a lot with relationships, moving on from people, seasons changing. It's like, man, I really have to constantly check my heart and say, man, this, I'm not the main character in this life. And God is so much greater. God is so much greater than my wants and my selfish desires. And I just choose to believe that he has the best in mind every time. And so because of that, that's actually what's helped me navigate moments of anger and loss and things like that, and be in process and let it come and arrive to a place where I can say, even though I lost something, God is still good. God is still great. God is still God. And even if I didn't have what I wanted in the way that I wanted, I can still serve and follow him. And these are moments in valley seasons and disappointments and letdowns where we can look as invitations to maturity and growth in God, to really continue to lean closer into him instead of using it as a reason to separate from him, thinking that leaving him will be better off. So hopefully that made sense. That is some thoughts I'd give to that. What about you, D?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Not a whole lot to add to it. And I'll actually try to be brief. We have a decent amount of questions in here. If you want to start looking through some of those,
I see.
I've picked our final day to go crazy. I even see you on Twitch, my guy, SOYB. I see your question. And so we'll get to that as well. But all right, my man Hayes, you're like, how I look at the situation, less selfish, less through the lens of anger. If you're trying to get out of anger, I love everything that Grape said. You got to stop beating yourself up about it and think that you're doing something wrong. Kind of gets you into this place of like suppression. You try to stuff these feelings down. And similar to that Tim Ross quote he talked about, it's going to come out somewhere. And so I love the idea of dealing with it, watching your thoughts. I think a little bit of encouragement I'll give you is to, and I think Grape was saying this too, is that anything that you are looking at through the view of just you and only you and how it's affecting you, you can look at that as like a selfish act. And so some people will, and please don't hear this as me like criticizing you. I'm just saying this is the understanding to get freedom from what you're going through. And I don't think you're doing anything wrong, like Grape said, by being angry at the loss of a loved one. But anything that we really cling to selfishly is going to lead to pain and suffering. I honestly just don't believe you can lead to anything but that eventually. And so the encouragement for you is that this is an opportunity to practice not clinging so tightly to things, because how else are you ever going to get get to that level of mastery? It's through the practice. Now, I will say, I think losing a loved one for most people are at the top. Like that's the hardest thing to practice this on. But for all of us, we get opportunity every day when something doesn't go our way. Because if we were to simplify this to a point where it was almost disrespectful, Hayes, we'd be like, why are you upset? Well, you're upset because someone you love isn't here, and that's you just not getting what you want. Again, please hear the simplification of it, because that's not to, but I just think Grape did a really good job with the empathy. So I'm just not spending a lot of time there. Hopefully you're just, for sake of time, I'm just giving you the instruction. And so, cause you take someone I love from me, I might feel some way too. Okay. So just please hear that. But this is your practice, man. And then everything else is practice as well. And a lot of people don't think that you can get to this place. I do. Now, I can't say it from experience because I haven't lost someone very, very, very dear to me in recent times. But I can tell you this in confidence because I just know how life and the human heart works. So like there's nothing outside of you that causes the pain that you feel in your heart. This is something that bubbles up from the inside. It's an inside job. Now, think about it. There's never been a time where you felt happiness, you felt pain, and it was outside of you, man. It came from in here. And so with the new approach, with the new mindset, a new understanding of the things out there, we can change our response to them, and we can love people We can have goals and dreams just as much as the next person, as long, but not have to cling to them to the point where we have to have things go our way. And it's crazy, man. Death is a tough one, where we know, like, it's happening all around us right now, and we don't have a problem with it until it touches us. And we can hop into this place of like, why is it happening to me? Usually the meditations you have towards the death that someone else might be struggling with are closer to the truth, because of course you're dealing with all the pain. But sometimes you may see a friend that has a person that passes from cancer, and you might be able to see for the friend that's like exactly what Grape was saying. That was better for them, man. Like, that was better for them. Obviously them being around, even if it was in pain, was better for you, but what's better for them. And I think sometimes we think spiritual progression comes through like these spiritual downloads, and it doesn't, guys. Like, you don't just read your Bible. I don't know if y'all recognize this or not. You don't just read the Bible, get full of these holy points, and then you go to work and nothing is difficult. People don't annoy you. People don't piss you off. Sometimes, I don't know if y'all have done this, me and my wife have had fights in the car on the way to church, and then we walk in and then just worship, and sometimes we put it on pause, and as soon as we got back in the car, it was like, yep, like I was saying, Ninja, and picked it back up. And so it's like, just because you read the Bible and you read a verse on patience, it doesn't give it to you. Sometimes Jesus is just giving you the command to go out there and work it day by day, and you actually have to go work through these things. And so, but here's what's crazy. We get that for almost everything else except spirituality. We think that it's some weird, mystical, hippie area. And no, it works just like swimming. Okay. I thought I could learn swimming from watching YouTube videos, fam. Got in the pool, almost drowned. It's just a little bit different. You gotta work some things out. And that's what these moments are like. I think God will allow seasons of loss, of things being stripped from you, just so you learn to loosen that grip a little bit. And so, I'll leave that there. I did notice in scrolling a question that Nick had that I might say some more practical things for, that I think you should listen for too, Hayes, because I think it'll apply for what you're going through as well, in terms of like day-to-day practical things to say to yourself to help get through that. But that's all I got. Great.
Yeah. And y'all pouring in with the question. I'm gonna get to YouTube question in a second. Bryce had a good question. I kind of asked a little bit more context, but he might have dropped it. Two last things I'll add to that, man, because I think Nick said something amazing. He said it's one of the stages of grief, and God doesn't say we can't grieve, referring to the anger. And so I would just remind you, man, you can grieve and trust God. Like, you don't have to wait till you come out of that process to feel like, okay, I can trust God again, or I love God again. I can be in relationship with God again. I can connect with God again. Like, no, he's with you even in that, right? And so something to just continue to rest in and keep in mind, because that is a very, very good truth to hold on to, that we have so much evidence biblically of such things happening. Again, God never abandoned Job with every question he had. He never did. He was present. And the reason why we know that is because God gave an answer to every question he asked at the end of the book and restored him the things that he lost in such a season. And then I think it's all of, the prayer, the community, the worship, the study, all those things that you might not even feel like doing in this moment. Because I do also think that a part of grieving, you can definitely be in a place where you're like, bro, I'm not in the mood to hear none of this. Somebody throwing scripture at me, talking about God, like, nah. And this is real. A lot of people have dealt with this and have gone to great lengths with it, losing somebody that they really love. And there wasn't really much you could speak to them about, because it was something that was so hurtful. It created a wall, a blockage, and it was really hard. And so it's one of those journeys that takes time. But I would also tell you that a part of getting back into the mood, or getting back into the environment, the connectivity that you had with God, or that you are trying to seek in God during the season, it takes you getting into those spaces to get to the mood. So don't look at it as, okay, once I get past this, then I can get back to it. It's a way of you being able to get into those those disciplines as a means to getting to that place of peace, as a means to getting to that place of joy and restoration. Instead of waiting to feel like, okay, I have to wait for this to all go away for me to get back there. Because a lot of times we think that we have to, because we're not in the mood. We just don't need to do it. A lot of people, if you don't praise right, you don't shout right, you don't cry right, you don't clap your hands right, you don't do this or that, then you don't need to do it at all. No, I just think I still could do it. And it's going to actually put me in the right spaces and framework of mind to actually get the joy and peace that I'm looking for. I can't tell you how many times through the grieving and loss of something, a relationship, something that was near and dear, someone that was near and dear, it was me in tears in private, and that culminated to me getting into a place of prayer, that culminated to me getting into a place of worship, that even though the tears flowed and the frustrations were voiced and expressed, I got to the place of saying, I'm okay. And I'm going to make it another day, because I was able to be present in those spaces, man. And so just something else to kind of sit with, if that's something that might land with you anywhere. So I want to dive into Bryce Buchanan. Hopefully I said that right, Bryce. He said, I have a question. How do I know if God is changing my heart? And he has some context. He's kind of dealing with some seeming rough thoughts. He gave some context saying, he's having thoughts and that won't go away, and he's praying for them to just stop because they're tormenting. And, asking kind of what thoughts he was referring to. He might be trying to Satan. Like, he feels like there's some enemy like thoughts that are coming through that really are.
Did he explain what those are? If not, please
no, he didn't. Yeah. And we would love for you to explain
I see
that.
Satan thoughts. Yeah. Let us know. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. But I think we could possibly address the initial question, and I'll let you go. I mean, I just ran it. How do you know if God is changing your heart?
Yeah, man. So I think, so when we're talking about our heart, man, that like life flows from the heart. I want you to think of your heart as like a seed, okay? And the actions of your life are like the fruit of a tree. And so don't worry, camera's gonna come back. How do I know what type of seed I have in dealing with a tree, right? It's by the fruit that I get from it. So I ain't have to lay one eye on the seed, but if I see some apples, I'm gonna put my money, I'm gonna put the house that we have apple seeds, okay? How I know? Because you just don't see pears pop up from apple seeds, no matter what they want to identify as, okay? A pear ain't coming from an apple seed. And it's the same with you. I think when so we live in a cause and effect cosmos, fam. You don't know anything that just pops up randomly. Like, we have a very ordered universe. Now, we may not understand why something is happening, but that doesn't make it random. That just means we don't understand why it's happening. And so let's say you have certain actions and behaviors that are happening. Those thoughts or let's say actions first. Those actions come from a thought every single time. Sometimes we might slap someone real quick or say something real quick and think there was no thought process because it was like that. I think you doubt how quick your thoughts are, right? But your thoughts move. Your mind even moves your body, and so there's this active thinking that comes before acting, and these thoughts flow up from our heart, and especially the consistent ones that you're talking about. But did we get the answer yet to what those Satan thoughts are? Oh, that I worship Satan. Okay.
Yeah, and I kind of asked just to kind of clarify what he was saying, but that maybe if you understand that a little better.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, maybe do explain that. Because there's that. But, and so when you look at that, right, like if you have a certain type of behavior, And then let's say you start going to church and you start reading the Bible, you get into community and you start having change of heart, you're going to notice that you have a change of habit, not just of action, but in the mind, like habits of thinking. Your thoughts are habits. Some of the resentment that you jump into, you got to look at as habits. Some of your anger, you need to look at as habits, because you notice that you'll jump into them habitually. And as you change these habits of mind, you change the habit of action. You won't see any of your consistent actions not preceded by consistent thought. And so now this is worth understanding as humans, but you do see a little bit of a delay, man, because someone could be struggling with behavior and have had a change of heart, and it is taking some time. There's that process. That's why we need to be very careful as we're judging different fruit. And the Bible speaks to this, because you never know what God's doing on someone's heart. And that's why we should be way more focused about what we got going on versus what they got going on. So don't hear this as you to hear this and start judging other people. It's for you to judge yourself. Like you said, like, are things actually changing? And so I promise you, man, no matter what this cookie cutter Christianity and this church is trying to tell you, you will not be in deep relationship with God for a significant amount of time and not see a change of behavior. And I think we need more men to step up and say that, like, yo, you're trying to finesse God, which we started this whole conversation around truth. And people will wonder why they struggle with the same things for so long. And they're like, God. Oh, so another thing you said, brother, you said you've been trying to pray that thoughts will go away. I love the idea of trying to run to God for help and seeing him as a source for help. But just like me as a father, I'm trying to raise mature women and a son, there's a part of the game that they have to play. And the most immature level of looking at our lives is trying to pray everything away. And I wish we were a little more aware to realize that don't work for 99.99%. Like, y'all keep hitting God's line. Not to say we can't be persistent with prayer, but some of y'all have been praying for the same thing since you were 8, wondering why he ain't taking away your porn addiction, because it's not happening that way, fam. And just why almost everything in your life doesn't come back from you sitting back and praying and God just sending angels to like serve you. Like, oh, here's that patience you prayed for. Here's that peace of mind you prayed for. Fam, there's nothing else you would do in the world and expect that to work. And the Bible doesn't even tell you that. The Bible doesn't, God is not like, yo, sit back and just pray for me to do everything for you. And you don't have to worry about nothing. And so I was about to chase a few rabbits. So let me make sure I'm bringing this back. You'll know your heart is changing because you will see a change in behavior, but you, again, unlike trying to judge someone else, you even have perspective into the thoughts. You'll notice, especially when we're talking about the heart, you'll notice your intentions and your motives start to change at a deep level. Once you, sir, notice those things, you know that, hey, I'm definitely having a change of heart. But if you're like, fam, and I'm just assuming, please tell me if this is differently, but I've just coached a lot of men. And like I said, we have a very input-output kind of world. I would assume that that's probably the only thing you're doing to try to get rid of those satanic thoughts, right? Is just trying to pray it away. And I think that could be part of your problem. I think you need a relationship with God that's founded in truth, not you just trying to get him to pray some away real quick. And I think if you were taking the steps to have a genuine relationship with him, you wouldn't even be bothered by no random jibber jabber thoughts, right? And that's my initial things. I'm not like, it could be some deeper stuff. Like, I don't know if you're like hearing voices and whatnot. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, so I wouldn't even touch that. You could have something like that going on where what I said gets trumped a little bit. And just being very honest, there could be some like a medication or something, some stuff for that. But on like a very basic spiritual level, we do try to finesse God. If we're being real, we don't want to put the work in. We don't want to live in a genuine relationship with God. We want what we can get from it. And so it's like, how much church do I got to go to? How much Bible do I got to read to get this from God? And that's usually what we're after when we're trying to pray things away. versus going through a process. Like you don't pray for biceps, you go through a process, and it'd be very similar spiritually. What'd you think?
Yeah. So he responded, yeah, in reference to, I believe, when you were talking about, maybe one of the only things he is doing is praying, and he actually needs a legitimate relationship with Jesus. I think it was around that same time he
oh, like your brain is saying, "Hell, Satan, fam." Okay. Okay, Greg's probably gonna cook this. I'll say this real quick. Even if your mind is saying that, and you're like, "Hey, I genuinely love God," and this is why I love what Grape said to Hayes, man. We got to learn to not try to suppress and hold on and guilt trip ourselves over everything. And that's why that stuff will stay around. But man, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't had this thought. But if I did have the thought, hell, Satan, it'd be like, okay, cool, whatever. What game was I playing? It's probably from that demonologist game I was playing or whatever. But like, if I get tormented with the thoughts of hell, Satan, I'm gonna be like, ooh, what do I watch on net? I know I'm not serving Satan and I'm not worried about it. And that's not how your salvation works. Y'all got to understand, y'all. We are riding with the creator of the universe, y'all. Y'all look at The Rock like he's powerful, fam. He's a human. I'm talking about go outside, ninja. Look at the clouds. Look at the sky. Look at the mountains. We got mountains. Look at the stars. Like go look at the ocean. You ever been around the ocean? I can't not help but feel God when you're like, out and just see the vastness of the ocean, or like mountains, a landscape, fam. I'm talking about
like, ain't no way y'all think ain't nobody create this, man.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
So I'm talking about the ninja in charge of that kind of stuff. Okay, the whole universe. Okay, that dude, you don't have a relationship with him that's as fickle as your coworkers, right? Yeah, your coworkers turned on you once they found out you was a Chiefs fan and you bandwagoning, your team juice. God isn't like, did I hear a hell Satan thought? No, get out of here. Get this ninja out of here, right? God is love. He is truth. He is not as petty as our mind can be at times. And so, yeah, fam, you should laugh that off. If you know that and that's the thing too, y'all. I love the little, and I'm not saying there isn't a small level of truth to this, but y'all really got to understand what worshiping the devil and some of these deities looks like. Now, I think most of us are worshiping ourselves before we're like worshiping these devils. Think about it, y'all. Y'all ain't worshiping God on accident. You ain't just like accidentally like, or anything, y'all. Because here, I'll tell you this. You could say, "Hell, Jesus," and that's not worshiping Jesus. That's not getting you into heaven. That's not maturing you spiritually. And anyone mature is laughing at you. If you're like, "Hey, look at me. I said, 'Hell, Jesus' 10 times. I said it all day." And my mind was saying, "Hell, Jesus" all day. There ain't no Christian that's going to be like, "Oh, you've ascended, fam. You've really arrived." They're going to be like, okay, that means nothing in our world. And so if you accidentally drank a Monster Energy drink and then you saw a TikTok about how it's satanic, I promise you ain't falling into the hell bucket. God's not like, I was rooting for you, but you sipped the devil juice. You know what I mean? Like that is and it's okay if we start there, y'all, but we just cannot stay there, because then we wonder why we can't get nothing done spiritually, because we're playing Dungeons and Dragons, not real spirituality, nothing real from the Bible, fam. So just like you can't accidentally worship your way into heaven, you're not going to accidentally worship this devil that you or any devil, any demon, as you're genuinely seeking a relationship with God, y'all. I'll leave that there as a mini rant.
That's fire. That is on point, dude. And he said,
glad that helped,
you
Bryce.
cracked me. Yeah, he said you cracked me up, man. But just laugh it off. Yeah, hopefully that all makes sense. I'm just gonna tag some scriptures for you. Yeah, we got you, Romeo. We got you. I'm gonna tag some scriptures to this, and hopefully this can help you. I'm gonna start with Romans 7, and I'm going to read verse 21 through 25, and then read chapter 8, verse 1. It says this: "I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. For I delight in the law of God after the inward man. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. in my body. How wretched man that I am. Who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then with the mind I myself serve the law of God, but with the flesh the law of sin. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. So essentially all I'm just trying to get you there is, in order to get from Romans 7:21 and arrive at Romans 8 verse 1, there has to be a recognition and reminder of who God is, which is greater than your body and greater than your thoughts. He says he's left wondering, I'm as dirty as filthy rags. I'm no good. Ain't got nothing to offer. I am a sinner and the greatest chief of sinners. And then he's reminded of chapter 8, verse 1. So a lot of this stuff is based on remembrance and reminder. I'm going to take you to another chapter. This is a verse that just made me do the Holy Ghost two-step when I read it, because it was so fire when I was studying it at the time, and it's something that just ringed in my mind. If you go to Lamentations, actually, I believe is it after Isaiah? Or is it Jeremiah? After Jeremiah? I'm trying to find it. Hold on. Maybe instead of just flipping through, because I got other verses, let me look at this like this. Lamentations 3:22 says this. There, after Jeremiah. Yep. Says this. I'm sorry. Verse 20. I will remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Verse 21. Yet this I called to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, verse 24, the Lord is my portion, and therefore I will wait for him. So this reminder in Lamentations is a whole book of just lamenting, crying, grieving of all of Israel's poor decisions, disobedience, and it's led them into such a exile wilderness that they're in. He's lamenting these things. But yet in the midst of so much that seems hopeless and all this mindless chatter that's going through his mind, potentially, he's like, yet this I call to mind. There is something powerful about remembering scripture, remembering what God says about you, remembering who you are according to God and how God views you, that even in the midst of thoughts like that, you have the capacity, because of what you remember through being poured in by God and having a relationship with him, you are reminded of how he speaks. You're reminded of how he really connects with you and pours into you, to where you can overlook those thoughts because you know without a shadow of a doubt, it's not him. That's not him. And that isn't you, right? Like that, you're not your thoughts. Those things are just coming through. It's like passing traffic on the road. When you go and walk and you just see traffic, cars flying by, that's a literal representation of your thoughts. They come and go. It's the ones that we hang on to and we invest into and we pour into and we nurture. Those are the ones that grow into bigger things that can potentially become bigger struggles, right? I love that. Yeah, you said it. For God has not given a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. Yes, bro. So like remind yourself of those things in those moments, because that's definitely something that's massive. And again, that goes back to Philippians 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good or of a good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. There's a calling for us to remind ourselves. Remembrance. That's one of the most repeated words throughout all the scripture. Remember, because that is what's actually going to pull us through in moments like that. And so then the fruit of the Spirit, this is the last text I'll give you because there's some other ones too. But just for the sake of time, Galatians 5, verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. In other words, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, meekness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, right? So that is evidence that you have a changed heart. This is the fruit that's being born in my life through my behaviors, through my life, through how I encounter with people on a day-to-day living, not just in front of crowds and on social media, but literally in my day-to-day behind closed doors, even the things that people don't have a clue about. People don't know, people have not seen, but yet this is a daily life I live. Are these the kind of things that are being shown in your life, right? How you treat others, how you love others, how you deal with yourself, all those kinds of things. Is this fruit that's born in your life? And it will be able to be shown. You can't fake fruit. So those are the things that take time to develop and take time to grow. But it's definitely rooted in that, and a good place, man. That's something that I'm reminded of often, when I'm going through maybe a particular season or situation, I'm having doubts. I just reflect back, man, no, this is what I've done. Not just what I said I'd do, but I did it. I lived it. I actually have tangible evidence that I'm experiencing eternity now. I don't have to wait. I don't have to play the guessing game. I can just think back. And that's because of a genuine pursuit after God's heart. And that's where the fruit shows up. It takes planting and it takes watering. It takes planting. It takes watering. You got to make an emphasis to get in this book and digest the food, digest the words in your mind, in your heart, in your body, and be willing to take that with you everywhere you go, day in and day out. So hopefully those thoughts made sense. And that answered your question, man, for sure. Just wanted to put some scriptures to some of that.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it is. And he said, your heart is what you do. And I think we would say what you consistently do. Yeah, for sure. But yeah. Okay. And I think it's because it's similar. I want to jump to a question from Twitch. My guy Romeo, he came from Twitch and he had asked, so what if you're putting in the work and trying to work on the relationship with God, but you don't feel like it's working? First thing I would say is be very aware of how feelings work. And again, I just think we overcomplicate our relationship with God. Let's take your feelings to anywhere else. Have you ever had a relationship you were working on and maybe you're like, I don't know if it's working. I was working out. Then it turns out it was. Or you've been to the gym, you were working out consistently, like, oh, I don't feel like it's working. And then eventually, you just find out that it was. And it's so important to understand that feelings change, man. And God is stable. God is truth. God is principle. So it's impossible for him to flow like our feelings, even if he wanted to. Like, that's just not the makeup of God. And so you really got to get to a place of saying, fluff your feelings. Like, God, even things like that, like you said, it may not be working. Sometimes we feel like God is far. Yeah, I mean, it probably does feel like that because we, just finished scamming someone or doing this or doing that. But no, God was actually right there. He saw it. It wasn't far at all. And so we've got to learn not to feed our feelings and learn how to feel a certain way and realize that reality can be something different than that. And because think about it, let's move it back to the working out. That's usually what gets people out of it. They did it for a week and they feel like, oh, I'm not seeing no results. This hasn't been for anything. And if it's impossible for it to not have been for anything, you just don't have a six pack yet. And because you can't handle your feelings, you give up and you don't get the progress. It's the exact same. Anyone that you appreciate spiritually, myself, great PD, anyone that's ever hosted up here, we've had those feelings. We've had the feelings of, man, I done read this thing cover to cover so many times. Why I just cuss that ninja out like that? Why I do that? Why I get so offended? Why I do whatever it may be. And so, I think it all boils down to, man, fluff your feelings at the end of the day. But what you think?
Yeah. God is greater than your heart. We got to we're in such a culture that's driven by our emotions. It makes sense why we have people who will say, I don't feel this, so therefore it must not be. We got people who go on there on rants about relation. I don't feel it, so this must not be for me. This must not be my person, right? I don't feel God, so I guess God isn't real, right? Like all these different things we're just driven by our emotions. But this is where we come back to a foundational place of truth. And so biblically, Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? This verse right here, man, tells us that our feelings are not supposed to be our guide, and it can never be. And so because of that, We need to be willing to submit our hearts to our minds. We need to be able to allow our minds to tell our heart what to do in spite of what it feels, instead of allowing what we feel to be the navigator for our life. Right. How we do this applicably. I mean, it can start something so small, man. The same Holy Spirit that can raise people from the dead, that can cause the deaf to hear and the blind to see, is the same Holy Spirit that will tell you when you're eating too much and you need to stop and not go up and get another plate. And it's the same Holy Spirit that will tell you that you need to apologize. And it's the same Holy Spirit that will tell you that you need to continue to do what you need to do in your efforts and daily disciplines in order to get to where you said you want to be, into who you want to be. Like this is a daily thing, man. So we have to be willing to start discipline, practicing that discipline. You'll feel it in the everyday. I've had numerous times where like the late night hit, I'm doing edits. I should be in bed anyway. I'm like, man, sure, I think I'm a little hungry. I'm like, no, I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry at all. No. I'm literally like getting my body to obey the bigger goal, vision, and dream that I have, where I'm not doing that. I'm not engaging in late night snacking activities that don't get me closer to who I want to be, and the shape I want to be in, the man I want to be, like all those kinds of things. And I definitely think the Holy Spirit moves in such a very, very close way in something similar. You're reminded of scripture, you're reminded of all these things, and God is clearly tugging on you, nudging you by inviting you through those thoughts of him, his word, and remembering what he said, remembering the things that he has spoken to you about, as a way to invite you into the divine and experiencing him in that way. So hopefully that made sense. I don't give in to your feelings, man. And even if you don't feel it, let your knowledge, let your understanding be the thing that guides you, and then your heart will follow. It's literally like a train. Like when you see a locomotive or a train turning a corner, you first see the locomotive, right? And then eventually the entirety of the train gets on the same track after turning that corner. That's literally what our head and heart looks like. Like it literally is what it looks like. We have to be willing to allow our minds, our understanding, what we know, what we know about God, what we know who we know he is, all those kinds of things to lead the way. And then that is what's going to allow us to get to the place where we're like, man, despite how I feel, Lord, I can still worship you. I can still obey you. I can still follow you. I can still stick near you. I can still be close to you, even though I don't feel you, even though I don't feel your presence, even though I don't feel like we're close, because feelings are so fleeting and deceiving, and we got to be willing to get that under control. So hopefully that made sense. Trust God, not your heart. Absolutely. Proverbs 3 verse 5-6, man. That's a verse I quote every morning in some of my audio journals. And let me tell you how easy it is to just like, I'm gonna go do my own thing and not consult God about it at all. Now, I agree that there are some things that you don't need to pray about, because God has already either instructed you about it, God has really spoken to you about it, or it's just something that really aligns with what God has called you to. It's like a no-brainer. Like, I don't need to pray about praying for other people. I don't need to pray about all those other kinds of things, man. That's something that God has clearly called for me to do. But when it's something that may be challenging, something I'm not too sure about, all those kinds of, yeah, man, we need to get into the habit of coming to God, submitting to God in everything. Pray without ceasing. Man, pray about everything, with everything, and bring it to God, man. So those are some of my thoughts.
Beautiful.
I know there are more questions in the Maverick chat. Again, shout out to everybody on YouTube and Twitch, man, asking those questions for sure.
Let us know if y'all have any again on Twitch or YouTube. Drop those
for sure.
Like it helped my guy SOYB. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
There was a question. Let me find it. Oh, Keyshawn. He asked, for the person that is faking the funk or pretending to be something else, what is the start over process? Honesty, self-awareness, knowing who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Anybody who's faking the funk and putting on a mask, man, is somebody who is not willing to accept who they really are. And I want to be clear too, man, because again, this does go back to feelings, because we do have people who will tell you, well, I feel like I'm, and again, and let's just call it what it is. I'm not even going to preface that. I feel like I'm in the wrong body. I feel like I'm a different person, different gender, different identity. I feel like that all of that, man, like you can be honest about what you feel and not identify with what you feel. Two different things. I can be honest and say, this is where I really am. And also say, okay, but I also know this is where identity comes into play. I know that this is who I'm called to be. I know that this is who I really am, despite what I feel. And I think that's all a part of honesty and having self-awareness. So I think the start over process looks like, okay, I see my fruit, I see the evidence, I see my behaviors, I see the way I've been living, and I see what I've been trying to portray myself to be to other people, what I say, all those kinds of things. But let me just get real for a second. Let me get in my own space. Let me get in the circle of truth where no lies can exist. Who am I? What am I really about? Right? When I peel back the covers and I'm really saying, okay, you know, I'm actually not as kind as I tell people I am. I'm actually really a jerk. I'm really rude and condescending to people. I belittle people with my words. I don't know how to be kind and nice to people and just receive compliments. I don't know how to just be honest. Just be honest. Honesty is the greatest medicine, man. It really is, because that's where all of the transformation really begins. God can't bless who you pretend to be. You just can't. So honesty. You got any thoughts, D?
Nothing to add, man. I think that's it. I think anywhere else we'd be just sugarcoating it and trying to add extraness. It's like, and that's what you need when you need more truth. It's just the cold hard truth. Start there. Yeah. Maybe as an actual practice for y'all that I could give you. Something I make a lot of coaching clients do is something we call the circle of truth. And is the goal is to have you to be vulnerable and to expose yourself, because that's what we don't want, man. No matter whether it's a deep, like something you keep in the closet or just something you were trying to keep from your mama, man. We was just trying to not get exposed and have that truth be out there. And so to do that, first I have folks strip off all their clothes, and not even just clothes, man. Anything you might identify with, man. That could be a do-rag, earrings, a wedding ring, like bare as close as you can to, you know, how you came in. And then I want you to imagine being in a bright room, you know, because sometimes if you naked, it's dark, it's like, okay, cool, you kind of hide some things. No, I'm talking bright light where you don't even know where the source of the light is. Like it's from everywhere. Like it's just as bright coming from the bottom of the floor towards the booty than it is from the top, right? It's everything is exposed. And then you have everyone that means anything to you. So closest, like family. If you have kids, you have your daughter's kid or sons there. Think of any romantic partners, but even just the coworkers. Like I think of the Shannon Sharp. I don't know if y'all heard about the Shannon Sharp leak where he went live on IG while he was having sex. Yeah. Like, you know, I don't think that's like horrible, whatever it is, what it is. But it's like, think of just how many random, like, you know, okay. So like if that just happened, like if something like that happened to me, kind of how Ocho was acting towards, y'all might even be up on this, but like Ocho was kind of teasing, you know, Shannon Sharp, and that like Great might do that for me. Like, yo, crazy that happened. That might be, you know, whatever. That's my boy. But like, there's random people like my neighbor or something, like people like, or just someone I'm doing a brand deal with, like that would be like awkward, man. And it's like, yo, so put those people there too. And lastly, imagine everything you've ever done at your feet. And you could have it represent by images, objects, whatever, but to the point where nothing is hidden. And so your wife, your kids, your coworker, they know everything you did last summer, the good, the bad. Like, it's not like we're just trying to expose the bad. I'm saying everything is just out there and there's nothing for you to hide. You are who you are and you can't handle it, you know, or you can't hide it. Because of course, some of you guys that have like little people to look up to you, whether it's your, it could be, if you don't have kids, it could be like nieces and nephews. Like, you don't want them to say your browser history, but there it is. Little nephew asking, like, what's that, Unc? What is that? Why she screaming like that? Why she bent over like that? Okay, everything is out there. Even the stuff that you are past and you know people still gonna judge you for it, okay? I'm just not trying to be long-winded. Everything, because sometimes we're so used to tucking things away, man. we can tuck things so deep into our mind, back in our conscience, that we don't even remember, like we don't even like remember some of the stuff. And so it's bringing all that out and really just meditate, like sitting in that for a little bit. And depending on how like used to being like how sheltered and covered up you are, it usually ranges how emotional it is. Like I know for me, it was super emotional when I first started doing it. I've had clients freak out, break out crying, because it can be tough, man, living with that level of truth. And then I would recommend coming back to it often. And usually, like I'll have guys do it one time, then it might be months before they do it again. And usually it might get harder for the first time, because the first time they may not even be really good at exposing themselves, and they didn't spend a few months with me. They know how to really live in truth. So sometimes the second time's even worse, because you like, I'd forgot some stuff. I'm really aware now. But eventually it gets easier, and you notice those same guys. And of course, with other, like we don't just leave it there. Just like you shouldn't do a church service. Like you also just want to practice. All of life is practice, man. It's revealing itself to you. That's why it's full of purpose. There's moments in all of our lives where, guess what? We get to be honest. You get to be upfront. You get to be truthful. You get to deal with what it is in front of you, or with what's right in front of you, or you get to exaggerate it and be a fraud. All right. And so there's just so many different ways that we can lie. Okay. And so it's about taking those little ones, even just maybe the time where you didn't flat out lie, but you still did lie, but you omitted the truth. You didn't tell a lie. You didn't say, hey, this is what I did. I just ain't gonna tell you this part. All right. And that's the beauty. You don't have to expose yourself and tell your wife or tell your coworker like, hey, I omitted this. But guess what? You could practice just by let's not omit it next time. Okay. Same chance, same opportunity. Let's make a different behavior. And you know what? I'm going to tell the truth here, the whole truth, even when it hurts. Okay, one thing I'll say on that, I think you should be real, raw, and relevant. And so, yeah, the whole truth to where it's relevant, right? We don't need to see your rash right now, even though that might be the whole truth. That's a whole different truth project, right? But if it's relevant, work on that, man. There's times where you could be amplifying things, right? You just like to exaggerate, act like you're a little bit doper than you usually are. You know what I mean? You tell everyone you dropped 34 on rec, you know what I mean? But you left, but you ain't really dropped 34. You dropped 24. And that's still admirable. But why you have to amplify it? It's like little things like that, noticing it. So just tell how much you actually dropped. Okay, let's know you dropped 18, and that's okay. We still love you, and deal with that. And notice the emotions that bubble up. And that, day by day, I promise you, y'all, that will compound and change your life faster than praying away all these bad things that y'all are doing. Okay? Still, I love the healthy prayer. I'm not trying to hate on that. Keep praying, but put some work in, fam. Put that work in daily, and you can't help but have your life change. Okay? Bryce said no Diddy, but yeah, I understand.
God bless him. Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff. I believe Romeo had another question on Twitch. He asked, what if you got trust issues and it's hard for you to be around people and be vulnerable or talk about my problems? I'll definitely warm it up here. I think couple things just to be straight. I think, now don't get me wrong, I think trust issues can be legit. I do. I think people can legitimately form trust issues, and it can be really hard to connect with people, but it always stems back to a blockage that's being formed from previous hurts and pains that you've experienced, where every time you encounter somebody new, a friend, potential significant other, anything like that, where a vulnerable space is offered, you're always reminded or reminding yourself of what happened to me the last time I was in a similar environment. And so again, I want you guys to also know this too, because people are so quick to say, oh, they're triggered and all this other kind of stuff. Listen. Trauma by definition is an emotional wound. And anytime you experience a trigger, maybe something to what we were just describing, being in a similar environment where you got hurt, let down, let that be an alarm that is telling you that this has yet to actually be healed. Not something to be so ready to run away from, but actually ready to encounter and digest. Let me give you an analogy. If you have, everybody's got an alarm clock on their phone, right? And an alarm clock that goes off, right? It's a sound that starts going crazy. It's the sound that lets you know, okay, like it's time to get up. So when you hear that, your first reaction is to, okay, let me see what this is about. Typically, if it's in a morning alarm, you turn it off, whatever it is. Okay. But that alarm is letting you know and sending you signals. It's time to get up. This is what you set, all that kind of stuff. When you are emotionally triggered, it's an alarm. Hey, whoa, we have not yet dealt with this. Whoa, same environment, same situation. This is something we have not unpacked yet. We have not confronted yet. So because we haven't, that's what you're seeing. And so you become a runner and a track star because instead of dealing with it, we just want to remove ourselves from it. But what's interesting about removing ourselves from it is that we don't actually rid of the problem. We just live to experience it another day, potentially at a greater level. Like, so instead of ignoring it, we've got to deal with it. So that's number one. So now when we come to this issue of, feeling like, man, I can't trust people. I got trust issues, this and the third. Let's be careful of what we label ourselves as. You don't have trust issues like you think you do. Now, I'm not trying to tell you about your life, but from the general population and general experiences, people don't have trust issues like they say they do. They just had an experience in a moment where they were crushed by somebody that they were honest with and shared a lot with. And I'm not negating that. That's very real. But instead of living in this space where I continuously label myself and say I have trust issues, how about we just start saying, hey, I remember having an experience where I was crushed, trusting somebody with everything, and it turned out to not be the best decision. So instead, let me actually nurse that wound so I can be able to grow in discernment to know who I can trust this information with, instead of expecting everybody to carry my baggage when they don't have the capacity to handle it properly. See, you see how we take we get into the space of taking accountability for where we are, for the decisions that we made. And even though we didn't ask for somebody to spill out our information and we didn't ask somebody to betray us, it happened. But there's something about learning what didn't we see? What can we see next time? Again, manipulators are real crafty. There are some real conniving, crafty people out here. Okay, that just have a way of words and just have a way of being abusive and manipulative. And I'm not saying that you should have seen it coming. What I am saying is that now that you've seen it, what are we going to do? And how are we going to navigate this moving forward, where we can actually have a healthier life and healthier relationships with others and be able to create environments where we feel safe enough to be able to be ourselves authentically and be able to communicate what we feel, how we feel, in order to navigate this life effectively. You're not going to be able to be vulnerable with everybody. Not everybody deserves your vulnerability. This is true. But there is a responsibility that we all share individually within ourselves to be willing to put in the right work to get to the place where we are able to identify people that we can trust. This comes with time. This comes with relationship development. This comes with giving little at a time. I got a biblical section for this. See, I knew it was coming. Hold on. I knew it was coming. Second Chronicles is, I believe, the text that I want to see. Oh my goodness. I believe it was it Second Chronicles? Who was that ninja that he invited the king into his house. He saw everything and then attacked him. Do you remember who I'm speaking about?
It's an Old Testament story?
Yes, sir. Twister Nick, I'm calling on you, sir. I know you in your word. What, do you know who I'm speaking about? If you know, I'll just probably briefly reference it till I find it. Until then, there was a king in the Old Testament who invited the enemy king into his home to see everything. He opened his door. He showed him all his house. He showed him all his land. And he then attacked him.
he went in like he was basically bragging, showing off all of Israel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll find it for you. I got you.
Yeah, man. Find that because that's so Manasseh. Keyshawn. Hold on.
Nah.
No.
Is it Ahab?
That's what I thought. Was it in Second Corinthians or Second Chronicles? I mean,
Chronicle. I'm gonna find it.
Okay. Yeah. So while he finds that, I'm gonna summarize it though, because that is basically what a lot of us do. And then we take on this role of, well, now I got trust issues and I can't trust nobody, so I'm just not going to connect with nobody, because we opened ourselves up to everybody and allowed everybody to see everything when we never gave room and time to discern if they even had the capacity to handle what we could show them. So then we learn through their handling and mishandling of the information and things that we told them, or the things that we shared with them, or just simply their inability to handle it well. They didn't want to have conversation about it. They didn't say the right things. They were very destructive with their words. We learned through that response, man, I shouldn't have shared that with this person. And I do need to take onus in the fact that I need to heal through it, but I also need to take responsibility and say, man, yeah, I really shouldn't have shared it with that person, but now I know the next time. So when I go back and connect with people in community, instead of sharing it all, let me just share a little bit at a time and see what you do with the little that I give you. I've done this with people. I have no problem telling people. And I don't say this to brag, but I just say this because this is where this is just the life that I choose to live. Vulnerability is so powerful. I have been blown away. I was just thinking about this the other day of how many encounters I've had with people where, because of the vulnerability that was created, they were able to share and open up about things, man, that they never knew that they would do. They didn't think they would do, and they have yet to really encounter somebody who was like, man, they gave them the space to do that. And it's so dope to be able to be a part of that experience. But the reason I was able to create that with other people is because I had to create that with myself. So I don't mind telling people, yo, I had a pornography addiction for 7+ years through high school and early college, middle school, high school, early college. It was a struggle for me. I don't mind telling people that, but you'll be amazed at just saying that and telling people that, how that might change how they look at you. I can't control how you view me, and that's not my concern. My concern is creating a space for myself and others where you can live in a space of freedom that you're probably not getting other places, for you to be able to be authentically you, where we share our struggles. We are where we are. And with the right people, I'm able to get insight to grow from that and have community to journey through with that. But that all starts with me learning the understanding of, okay, not everything is meant to be shared with everybody. And okay, Hezekiah. Oh, so clutch. Hezekiah. Oh my goodness. All right. I want y'all to listen to this. I'm gonna read this section. I appreciate you, D. You came in clutch right there. I'm gonna read this briefly. This is the story that I was referring to. Okay, so this is found in 2 Kings 20, verse 12 through 19. At that time, Baradak. Okay, I'm gonna mess up these names, y'all. Yeah, just Old Testament. Just work with it.
This is what you're looking for, right? Hezekiah shows off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Treasure. All right.
Yes, sir. A son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters in the gift to Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. Hezekiah listened to and welcomed them, and foolishly, this is the amplified version, showed them all his treasure house, the silver and gold, spices and precious oil, and his armory and everything that was found in his treasuries. There was nothing in his house, palace, nor in all his realm that Hezekiah did not show them. He showed it all. Then Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and said to him, "What did these men say that would cause you to do this for them? From where have they come to you?" Hezekiah said, "They have come from a far country, from Babylon." Isaiah said, What have they seen in your house?" Hezekiah answered, "They have seen everything that is in my house. There is nothing in my treasuries that I have not shown them." Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, "Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the time is coming when everything that is in your house and that your fathers have stored up until this day will be carried to Babylon. Nothing will be left, says the Lord. And some of your sons' descendants who will be born to you will be taken away as captives, and they will become eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon." Then Hezekiah said to Isaiah, "The word of the Lord which you have spoken is good." For he thought, "It is not good. Is it not good if at least there will be peace and security in my lifetime?" Boy, this right here, you have to be careful with who you give your all to, because not everybody is invested in you and in the person God is calling you to be. They're just not. So you have to be willing to grow in discernment by having community, being in faith community, being in spaces where you are able to create that connectivity, and then control your emotions to where you're not so quick to tell everybody everything as a means to keeping them in your life or as a means to pushing them away from your life. But just simply saying, yo, all right, I can share with you this because it's actually on par with our conversation. And this is something that I don't mind you knowing. And I'll give you a little nugget. So if it does end up on the internet and it does end up somewhere and it does end up in the ears of people that wasn't meant for, I'm not triggered by it. I'm not upset by it because it wasn't something that I didn't want you to know. And it wasn't something that bothers me that other people know about me. So I'm going to share this little nugget there and let me sit back and observe. We got to get real good at just observing the behaviors of other people. We get so caught up in hanging on to the words of people. I'm telling you this because I did it. I did it for a long time. And it was up until maybe more so like recently over this year where I was like, dang, my ability to hang on to the word of people and the word that they give me. And then it causes me to overlook their activity. I've heard a lot of people say a lot of dope things about me that I have not heard. It's not that I haven't heard it before, but I really appreciated them saying that, making some kind of verbal commitment to something. And then I was just like, oh yeah, I take them at their word. I believe the best about them. So I take them at their word, and then they don't show up. So then I find myself extremely hurt, feeling betrayed. But it's like, well, wait a minute. We didn't take a second to do an inventory check. I know that's what they said, but what did they do? Because words aren't fruit, actions are. You better preach that thing, Sean. I'm doing the best I can. When you look at fruit, it's the actions, it's the behaviors, it's not the words. Anybody can say anything. What are they doing? Give myself room and time and space to see that. That then gives me understanding, okay, I can trust them with a little bit more. Not just because they kept it to themselves or it was a secret. They didn't put it on the internet. They didn't share it with anybody. I didn't have to come and hear from a different group of people. Hey, I heard this about you. I heard that about you. And I knew it was that was the only person I told. I also knew because of how they responded to me in such a sensitive moment. They were there with me. And I was able to be received in that space. I felt very, very seen, known, heard, loved in that space. I was not condemned, destroyed, judged. They just made room for me. That says so much. So again, hopefully this answers your question. The trust issues it can be a legitimate thing. I just think there are too many of us who misdiagnose ourselves with trust issues because deep down, sometimes we just don't want to do the necessary work to heal from people that broke us in order to create healthy relationships that are better for us moving forward. So we would rather live in this identification of trust issues instead of saying and admitting that even though I was hurt, they don't have to set the standard for my relationships in the future. And I have the opportunity, because I know I need it, to get into community and connection with other people and give them a little bit at a time and observe what they do with it. That lets me know, can I trust you? And I promise you, y'all, not everybody is against you. Not everybody is out to get you. Not everybody hates you. And you ain't got as many haters as you say you do online. I promise you don't. Put the phone down, go outside, connect with some people and touch some grass, my G. Stay off of TikTok. I promise you gonna be A-okay. So those are my thoughts. Hope that landed well.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
I just think in general, we just got to get better at doing things that are difficult just because it's hard. Like you probably don't have these trust issues that you're labeling yourself with. And even if you did, or even if you do have something that's difficult. So like, we don't stop that, some of y'all, your face crooked, okay, you losing hair, you snaggle tooth, and you still be trying to holler. You still be trying to spit game. You're resilient. Why can't you be resilient with God? Just like you resilient with these ladies or resilient with your game. Like, you find a way. It's difficult. You move forward and you find a way. Same with God. But all right, let's try to keep it moving. Nick had two good questions. I think I'm gonna combine them here. He says, when it comes to dealing with our own pride, when are we being prideful? When we're being prideful in the moment, how do we snap out of it and acknowledge we are being prideful? And then another question on the back of that, he says, is how do we distinguish between pride and confidence? as well. Great questions, Nick. I love them. I feel like they force us to be more mindful and kind of break things down on a granular level, and I like that. So I just kind of want to share some stuff that's worked for me and stuff I shared with a client recently, and hopefully this helps. And I don't know if I have like just a bumper sticker go-to slogan or cheat sheet, but when you talked about the first part of like snapping out of it, acknowledge that you're being prideful, I want to open that window a little bit, because I think it's very similar, at least the strategy works for not even just prideful. We could use other words. I like the word okay because it almost summarizes everything. And I like to say, am I okay or am I not okay right now? Because not okay could be offended, could be prideful. We might use the word like selfishness, angry, horny, frustrated, whatever. I like to group all that in okay, but I think this works for all of that. Is first off, I think we need to be in a habit of just watching it, being in the moment. And I say this a lot, y'all, but just watching your mind. And like the last 6 months, I've had a few mantras that I've used to say to myself, like in tough moments. And I was sharing them with actually a couple clients, and it seems like they've been helping with them. I'll share them with you guys. I've evolved out of 2 of them, I feel like, and I'll let you guys know where I land. But I do want to share all of it with you guys because it still could help, because it served me for seasons. The first one is this too shall pass. This is a very powerful one. It, may be a little tough for you in maybe moments of pride, because sometimes you're not like in a prideful moment necessarily hoping that it ends. You just don't even notice it. You just being prideful and just in the moment. I use it a lot for things that I might call difficult or challenging, things that might make me sad, things that I might be angry about. It's just reminding myself that, I have never had anything, any feeling, any emotion like that has just lasted forever. It hasn't, no matter how good it was, no matter how bad it was. I even got to the point where I was reminding myself during good moments, like, this too shall pass. I did start to find that I struggled with it a little bit because it would put me in a less present mode and maybe projecting into the future a little bit, just being like, because it's like, hey, one day this will pass, and then it's like, okay, then I'll be okay once this passes type of vibe. So I kind of stopped, and something I had heard that Alex Hormozy shared from some really top therapist he got. I'm forgetting her name, but she would ask her clients when they were struggling in the moment to ask, what would it take for this to be amazing? And I loved that because it helps you reframe certain situations that you're in. So maybe, I think for me, it was really easy because most of the stuff that I teach, a lot of the stuff we share here on the Truth Project, like I said, I didn't get no spiritual download. I didn't read Corinthians and it was like a pop-up, like an achievement unlock, like doo-doo, now you got a Truth Project episode or a rant unlocked. Like I figured a lot of this out, crying, making mistakes, being humiliated, like all of the bad stuff. And even having that perspective now helps me in current struggles. When my kids are driving me crazy, y'all, I promise you, parenting don't work like it do in the movies or like you think in your head. Like, I was just like, I'm pretty smart. Most of the parents I see are genuinely like, I am worried about their IQ. I'm like, I just don't think they're intelligent people, strong parents. I was like, man, I'm gonna be a breeze. It's gonna be a breeze. My kid's gonna listen to me. My kid's gonna be amazing, fam. Just so y'all know, if y'all ever catch my kids somewhere for some reason I ain't there and they just be doing something, you like, y'all thought that's Dion's kid. I don't know either, fam. They weren't raised that way. I ain't tell them. It's just sometimes kids, you give them A, you raise them in A, they choose B, and you be bamboozled. So I just be sitting here be like, scratching my head sometimes with parenting. And that helped me a lot. It'd be like, you're a coach. You help a lot of men, Dion. A lot of them are fathers. So how could this be amazing? Well, I'm learning things that I can pay forward and that will help people. That's helped a lot. And then there's a lot. I'm not going to rant all the different ways, but that's a good meditation for you and you'll bubble up some really good things. A lot more recently, again, I even abandoned that. It does help in the moment because I think it helps you to reframe the moment. But at least for me, it still felt a little future based. And I tweaked that a little bit in almost answering why it's amazing, because I think all of life, every moment is trying to reveal itself to you and teach you things. And so where I landed is more so, and Hayes was asking, why is this happening to me? I almost like to say it in a good way. Like, what is God trying to get into me? Or what is God trying to teach me? What is God trying to equip me with? Or even just asking, why is this happening to me in a good way? Like, wow. Because if it wasn't a lot of the things that I called challenging or bad or difficult, I wouldn't have the lessons that I have to teach and the man that I am and the leader that I am. And a lot of the compliments I get and people that admire some of the things that I say and do, it's like, it's only possible through those difficult times. And an analogy I gave, I think, to my coaching group on Mondays is I've been playing Wukong lately, and they got all these great skills you can unlock. Some of them take a lot of XP to get. And so I can't get XP from buying it. There's no pay to win option. There's no glitch. I got to fight people. And the bigger the enemies, the tougher the enemies, the more XP you get. Like, you could go and try to do a little farm where you're killing little guys all day, or you could just kill some tough, big enemies and you get a bunch of XP. And it's the same for our life. And we see these things. You're like, I want to unlock this level of patience or leadership, all these different things on our skill tree of life. But we don't want to gather the XP. It's like, God allowed so many things to happen in your life. All of them were sent to level you up. And let's just not, you need to just realize how much XP you're wasting and you're losing. And I was like, bro, some of the most painful seasons of my life were whole XP farms. God's like, I'm trying to level you up. And I just sat there and complained and whined and missed out on all that XP. And so I love that because it puts me into the moment. It's like, okay, something happened and I go into not being okay. Well, there's a reason I'm not okay. There's a skill I need to fight. Okay, a quick example I'll give too. In Wukong, there's so many secrets. I didn't pass chapters and then only to find, there's like this other boss you could have fought. So I'll go back. And some of the easier guys the earlier guys are so simple now that I'm juiced up, leveled up, got all these abilities that I didn't have back then. And so the enemies that were once challenging are almost laughable. Like guys I was dying to over and over again. I wouldn't even think of them taking a tick off of my health bar now. And that's but I didn't just pray my way there. I killed hundreds, if not thousands of enemies on the way to gaining those powers. And so it's the same way, man. We just don't realize that. So the prideful moment that you're experiencing, Nick, is an XP grind, XP farm. And so when I remind myself of that, I instantly get excited because I'm realizing I got to take care of business now. And it's going to elevate me in the future. And it's an excitement about what I have, not frustration. I'm not like, here's another disagreement with my wife. It's like, I was waiting for this. I needed the XP. Last time I got impatient. I couldn't stay calm. Thank you for having an attitude, my lady. And I'm calm here and I'm patient. And when you can have the same experiences, but different actions, you're growing, you're leveling up. And so, but I don't know that I'm leveling up if I may be leveling up in other areas if I'm preventing arguments with my wife, but I don't know my ability to forgive and not take offense and all these things. If it's not happening, if no one's trying to talk crazy to me, how do I know? And so then it becomes a lot easier to count it all joy. All right. When you face many trials. So that's something I would share for that first part, Nick. Grape, I don't know if you have anything on that or anything on his second part about distinguishing between pride and confidence.
I think you crushed that.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I think you crushed that. I don't even know, man. I don't think I got anything. No.
Perfect.
No.
Okay. Yeah. And so, Nick, probably one thing I would throw on that second part is, how do we distinguish between pride and confidence? One, I just want us to really, really not overcredit pride in certain things. And maybe I just want to maybe talk about how more so how I look at those two things and maybe it answers instead of giving you like a direct answer. But I don't even know how to even look at confidence anymore as like I don't know, this just random thing that you get. Like you like I don't know. I'm sure there was I Google everything. There's probably a younger version of me that was like Googling how to be more confident or something like that. And I know that because men will come to us. And man, some of y'all here now that have been rocking with me for years, I remember your intro Vox with me when you first started. It's like, yo, I want to improve confidence, this and that, as if it's like some arbitrary thing you just get in like wholesale from Costco and it takes you everywhere. And one, I just don't, I think it would be amazing and benefit all of us if you didn't need confidence as a requirement to like get started with anything, and you looked at confidence as something that's just going to build as your competence, your understanding, and your proficiency improves in certain things. And so I'm a pretty confident Madden player. I've done probably hundreds of thousands of snaps over a decade of playing and teaching the game. I've seen so many different things. So it makes sense when I queue up for an online regs match, a regular match of Madden, there's confidence. We just finished playing some 2K. I don't have that same experience with 2K. I don't have any experience of winning consistently, doing great, all these things. And so there's less confidence. But guess what? We act like you need confidence to, first off, to even make money or to do whatever. Like, I don't even know at this point, I don't remember, but I would love to know where my confidence level was when we first did the First Truth Project. I'm sure it's probably not the same as 4 years in. You know, y'all done hit us with so many questions from so many different ways, and we've had to create analogies and learn how to say things. Like, I promise you, 4 years in is just a little bit different than the first one. Like, we've just experienced so many different things. The same with parenting. And it's like, people will be like, yo, how do I be a confident parent? Ninja, parent, and parent with intention. But just know you can still be a good parent without being a confident parent. Madden Mastermind, okay, a website I launched that led to all of this. And that site ended up being very, very successful, making me and all the staff on there a lot of money. I was anything but confident when I first launched. Didn't stop me from making sales. And as sales were, and it wasn't until the sales kept coming that I was like, oh, I could have confidence in this, and I should. But sometimes we think we have to have bulletproof, relentless, unshakable confidence to even proceed. I love it when like UFC fighters or boxers will kind of let us in. Usually it's after a fight, because on the front end they're trying to sell it, but they'll tell us like, y'all was a little scared going against that guy, or I had my doubts, or I had my worries. Let me translate that for you, y'all. That's a hit to confidence. Okay, they weren't as confident. This ninja that knocked a lot of people out. I might be one of them, but it didn't stop them from going out and winning the fight. And so just adopt that. We don't need to have crazy levels of confidence. Okay, but then, okay, going back to pride, you can have confidence in something, and I feel like almost pride might want to take it to the extra step. So it's saying, okay, like I am confident that I can properly and by I think Grape and myself can properly answer most of the questions we're going to get on a Truth Project stream. Why? Because for 4 years we haven't had a problem with any that I can think of, and so there's a confidence there, and we don't want to be so humble that we are like, oh, so I'm not gonna, I know I could do great there, but I'm not going to stream. Well, no, people would be affected. Like, we're helping people by streaming. Now, I think pride likes to take it the extra step and thinks, now because of that, that means something special or whatever about me. And that's the game that I would like to monitor when we're worried about pride and ego. It's like, okay, where is pride trying to take the extra step? I might butcher it, but I think my favorite quote on humility goes, humility isn't thinking less about yourself. It's thinking about yourself less. Yes, there you go. Okay. So it's not like, oh, and I do think Christians can overplay this sometimes. When we're trying to up God, we can down ourselves a little bit, as if you're worthless and can't do anything. It's like, oh, I'm just a worthless sinner and just trying to do my best in life. And it's like, and sometimes they'll lean into that as why they're sinning and why they're messing up, instead of owning the willpower that you do have and Yes, you are a creation of God. You aren't stronger. You aren't more powerful than God. But God creates some pretty powerful things and some pretty amazing and awesome things. You fall into that, and so I don't want you to fall into this. Sometimes we can fall into this weakness, as I would call it, where we're afraid to be good at things, or even aim, or even try to be good at things. I don't think that's cockiness or pridefulness, and because I also think we have a duty to move with excellence. And because when you understand stewardship, we shouldn't be taking days off, taking plays off, right? We should be putting our best foot forward. And that typically is going to lead naturally to confidence. But are you taking the extra step and say, okay, because I can speak well, because I can do this, I'm going to use this to serve me personally or selfishly, or because I'm better at this than someone else, that means that I am now better than that person. And I'm looking to be served instead of using that. And that you said using that confidence to serve people. That hopefully, if you're doing that dance in your head and being aware on that level, I think you'll catch things and know when you're leaking into pride. But I do think it can be a slippery slope and something that you got to watch, because as your confidence grows, it's probably because you're having success. I feel like that's how it should go. And then naturally that can go to the head. But just because you're confident doesn't mean you're prideful. Any
beautiful.
thoughts? Great.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I think the only thing that I was thinking about was what you just kind of what you basically landed on was like, yeah, you know, pride is basically making it about you. It's a form of self-righteousness, right? So I want this to say something about me. When I give this service, when I give this hand, give this love, when I show up, when I give this explanation, when I believe I can answer this question, I can show up for this person, I can tell this person that how they're thinking really isn't the most optimal any kind of way. You always have to ask yourself, what is this doing for the bigger picture? And if you always end up asking that and it lands on what it's doing for you, that I think can always be a place where you're becoming prideful in that manner. And you just want to be mindful of that. Because it's easy. It's so easy. Like a symptom of pride and self-righteousness is being able to point it out in others, but you can never see it in yourself. So if you aren't able to label that and you aren't able to see that, it's possible that you could be moving in high levels of pride. So you want to be mindful of that. If I'm giving this answer and this thought to be a helping hand, because I really genuinely care for you and I care for this conversation, I care for the fruit that this can come out with, then I think you're in a better place than saying, no, I just care about being right. And I care about doing this the way I want to do it, because I think how I want to do it is better than anybody else wants to do it. So yeah, I think that's kind of how I've been able to tell in my own life for sure. Because there's a lot of things that I've engaged in conversations, not from a place of genuinely wanting to connect with that person, but because I wanted to prove to that person that they were wrong, I was right. And even on topics and subjects of God, I can't tell you how many arguments I've had in DMs where it was like, I'm trying to prove God's existence to somebody, but it's like, all I'm doing is moving in pride, because I'm going back and forth on something that this person clearly isn't really wanting to converse about. And what I'm responding with really isn't helpful. I'm just trying to show them how wrong they are and how right I am, even when talking about something as serious and as, important as one's relationship with God. So that's all I would add. You landed really well on that for sure.
Okay. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think this is the last call on questions. Let us know if y'all have anything. And remember, y'all, this will be our last Thursday, at least in this type of live, situation. We are going to start running replays. Seems like we might have 3 or 4 years of them. So if you still want to show up and get fed spiritually, we'll have, a rerun running for you, but we won't be live taking questions. And so it's crazy. People always come through, especially on Twitch and YouTube. They're like, is this live? And it's always like, yeah, fam, it is live, but for a little bit, it won't be. Okay. It will be the replay. But if you guys have questions, we are here live. Please drop them. I see my man Bryce on YouTube. I think this is the last one. If you've seen another one, please let me know. But he said, hey, man, how do you think I could practice letting go of things I subconsciously dwell on and trust God? Oh, wait. Did I read that right? Hey, man, how do you think I could practice letting go of things that I subconsciously dwell on and trust God. Got it. So I think it's day by day, fam. I think very practically what I want you to do is, here's why I think we continue to dwell on things. I actually feel like when things bubble up, you have these feelings. Let's say you beefing with your girl, you're like, oh, I can't believe she said that or whatever. It's touching some sort of like scar you got in your heart, right? And it's bubbling up trying to heal you. And it can do that. It won't be easy, but think about it, y'all. You guys have got colds before. When the cold's coming out of you, right? It's not instant. It takes time. It's going to be the same with this, okay? Stop putting these weird ideas on your spiritual development and growth. So I need you to practice watching the mind chatter, okay? Your mind will say things. Your heart will feel things. But I want you to notice, like Grape said, you aren't your heart, you aren't your mind, you have those things. You can move independently of those. And when you start to feel and dwell on certain things, what happens is your heart closes and you're going to notice it. What I want you to practice is opening it back up slowly and just watching all the stuff that your mind does. It's like a pond, right? When a pebble hits it, it gets wavy. But if you don't do anything and just watch it, it'll chill out. Like I said, this too shall pass. You've never, fam, had an emotion that just didn't go away. You didn't dwell on it for a year straight, okay? Or even in that year, right? Let's say you did have something that kept coming back. There was a start, there was a stop. Something else took its place, and then maybe it came back. But what I think the reason it keeps coming back and it keeps being painful is because when it does come, you either suppress it and like try to push it down. Oh, don't think that's bad. Or you like overly express it where you're doing these things in the world. Like you're getting mad, you're smacking people. And of course that has repercussions that come back, because then they usually try to smack you back or get someone else to smack you, or they're mugging you all every time they see you. And these things have it keep coming back up. Instead, allow it to heal you, man. Let it bubble up. Watch it. If you're used to always giving in to your impulses, again, just like when you're hungry, you're on a diet, or you got to be disciplined there. You got to learn to not listen every time the mind jumps and says, hey, we're hungry. Same time it wants to jump and get offended, when it wants to jump and be horny, when it wants to jump and be impatient. You got to notice it as mind chatter and say, that's what it is, but I'm not going to give into it. There's been plenty of times where you felt left, but you moved right? You felt like a Twinkie, you ate the salad, or you felt like the salad, ate the Twinkie, whatever it may be. And it's the same thing you got to do here, right? Is watch it. And often what you need to actually do is nothing, or whatever the right thing is, and not to give in to that. And that's like watching the pond settle out instead of getting your hands in there and trying to force the waves down. Because what does that do? That creates more waves, more ripples. And that's what you're doing when you're saying, don't think about it. Don't let it go. Don't dwell on it. No, when it pops up, be like, oh, that resentment that I have from my pastor or from my ex or from my best friend. You're here to heal me. Let me not suppress you. Let me try to understand why you're here. Why am I so triggered by it? Why am I holding on to that resentment? Because they said this. Well, whatever. You can unpack that. And then from there might be some action steps that you might take. You might want to reach out to them, all of that, whatever. Whether you do that or not, though, to heal that heart and that mind of its chatter, you have to practice that, fam. And over time, one, you'll just notice that like your mind has less power over you. And that on its own will be strengthening. But then the more you do it, it's actually just going to stop bubbling up less, because it will have healed. And y'all don't realize this, man. One of the best things you can do is teach yourself that you can handle emotions. Like I think back to a state, I used to be so reactive, man. Any emotion I felt, and it's really easy to get offended, y'all, these days. I would just have to do something. Big feelings needed big emotions. And this is another reason I get excited when I experience different emotions. What you guys should do is Google feel wheel, like FEEL, a feel wheel, like a wheel that spins. And you guys will get used to having more words to describe your emotions and the things that you go through. Like I start going, let me pull some of them up because some of them are great. But like, I was going through a feel wheel and I was getting words like abandoned in it. I was like, ooh, I never really described how I would feel as abandoned in this moment. But maybe when I was just initially feeling, I was like, I'm mad, I'm pissed off, I'm turned, whatever I might want to use. But as I got better vocabulary and more words. I got different understandings. You know, things like infuriated we might get, but maybe withdrawn, feeling skeptical, dismissive, feeling ridiculed, feeling insignificant, inferior, you know, stuff like that, feeling out of control, feeling weak, rejected, bitter, disappointed, feeling repelled, right? All of these things, they give understanding and clarity to what we're doing. And then you kind of learn how to navigate them a little bit. And I get excited when I experience new emotions because I get to prove to myself like, ooh, I can handle this. Because at some points, there's some that at some point in my life, I can't. Like, disrespected was a big one. I didn't care how significant or insignificant you were to my life. You could be random user 44 on Twitter. You had smoke, I was ready for it. And I would, you know, argue all night over some little things because I couldn't handle that emotion. When they said something and I felt disrespected, I wasn't okay. And so I had to do things to try to feel okay again. Now, insert Twitter user, whatever comment, I'm still okay. I get to keep my power. I don't got to go run and chase and try to make things. I don't got to try to control them to be okay. It's like, oh, you don't like me. That's the same. That person not liking me or hating me on the internet is the same as my toaster. I got a hater. I got a toaster. They're both necessary. They're both in life. I'm not mad at the hater. He's got something going on. And I don't mean he's a toaster in even a bad way. I'm just saying I think highly of my toaster. I'm grateful for my toaster. I'm grateful for him and his place in the universe. There's need to be any of that, right? But I didn't get there by praying my way there. I got there by being offended, being mad, and having to realize the mind is telling me stuff. The mind does not know what's real. The mind just knows what has been fed and programmed, and it's telling me I got to get even. But I did that the last 84 times, and it didn't heal me because I still want to get even here. I'm still in this hell. And so I just watched it, and I watched my heart flaring up. Obviously, it's not like racing, but you know when y'all get mad and you like, and then just said that, I watched my heart, and I do nothing. Or I don't do nothing. I do whatever I was doing before that. And so if I was sitting there and I was making grits, back to the grits, and I watch my mind every time. It's like, nah, but get back your phone. Go tell him this. It's like, haha, that's cute. And I like to talk to myself like the third person, like, oh, Dion's angry. That's cute. Back to the grits. All right. And then the heart wants to feel some sort of way. I don't do nothing. I just watch it. I can handle this. Back to the grits. Next thing you know, it's added to the roster of emotions that I can handle. And the more it pops up, disrespect. I'm good. I move. I do what I got to do. But then a new emotion pops up. Okay. Let's say is disgusted, whatever. One of those feel wheel ones. Oh, I'm not okay. Then I get excited. I got to add this. Then I'm watching it even more because I'm noticing myself. Maybe I'm disgusted. I want to tell someone off. And it's like, nope. Whew, let's watch it. And the next thing you know, boom, disgust is added to the feelings I can handle. So that's what I would do, man. You guarded your heart. Exactly. Yes. And that's what a lot of people think we need to do to be safe. Like we got to, guys, and think about this. You can't control life, fam. You just can't do it. And y'all see everyone out there that's like, yo, people, oh, this offends me. This you can't do this, or I'm disrespected. And so they try to control everything, how everyone around them talks, how they dress. Oh my Lord, just go on to Facebook if you're old enough and look how people feel about these politics. The debate just went down. Folks need you to agree with them and how they think and how they want you to talk for them to be okay. You get on the internet. I don't know if y'all follow me long enough. Every election time, I get out there and I publicly endorse both candidates because I want to piss both sides off. Okay. If I could, I'd vote for Trump and Kamala. Okay. Just for you, the individual that is so pea-brained that you can't sit next to a different opinion, even for a second. I want to smoke you out of my existence. I vote for both of them ninjas 2 times. And the ninja that just quit and joined Trump. I can even remember, I don't follow their names, but I want you to be triggered by who I'm voting for. And I want it to make you mad and get you out of my life. Because again, if it's a ticking time bomb if I can't disagree with you. All of us on this call, me and Grape disagree on things. We just don't even know it yet. And so if I already know I'm done with him the moment he disagrees, what chance do we have, y'all? If I'm gonna lose you as a follower because I vote any of them, I'd rather lose you now. And I would love for us all to just get to a place where we can handle more, even handle disagreement. So that might be something that pops under your list. You notice one of your homeboys just going in on a political statement and it's irking you. Watch it. Don't comment on the Facebook post. If anything, comment on his other posts that you didn't care about. That's your boy so much. You ain't comment on his boy's got a new he got a promotion at work. You ain't want to comment, but now you want to cuss him out in a paragraph because you disagree with him, right? It's like that's the stuff you meditate on. And if anything, move with love. Move how you were originally moving with your homeboy. But watch those selfish, egotistical thoughts that make you think I got to manipulate and control my way to be happy. Because here's why that's freeing, fam. Because just please look around for a little bit. You can't control life. If you could, you would have already controlled that comment from not happening. You can't control the weather. You can't control people's opinions about you. And so the ultimate freedom actually comes in that point that we had about death. It's allowing, all that's related. It's just allowing that to die. Like, I don't need everyone to have the perfect opinion about me. I don't need them to be right about me. I don't need you to act a certain way. I'm grateful for the game of life. And when you do that, so much of life loses its sting, including death. Including death itself loses its sting. And so hopefully that helps and it makes sense on like a very practical way. Just ignore that stuff. Is how you guard your heart. Yes. Thank you for bringing me back, Bryce. That's how you actually get to freedom. People think it's by guarding and being like, no, I got all these boundaries, all these things for people to respect me. But that doesn't give you any peace. If anything, it puts you in more hell because you just have more rules for people to break. And you're like, oh, you raise your voice. Yo, I used to be the ninja. Like if we were at a table eating in front of people and you asked me to pass the salt, honest to God, true, because this has actually happened. If you didn't say please, I wasn't going to pass it. You'd be like, hey, Dion, hey, pass me the sugar. Pass me the salt. Pass me the cranberry sauce. Pass me the gravy at Thanksgiving. I look at you like, bet. You're like, what? You going to say please or something? Like, you ain't punking me. It's like, I wish I was around that ninja now, man. Oh, my Lord. Talking about something not making you okay, that I want to smack that ninja. Like, how can you be so full of yourself that you need someone to talk to you in a that's not even bad, bro. If we're moving quick, I might not even be thinking to tell Great, please on something because we're boys. You know what I mean? Hey, pass me, I'm hungry, man. Pass me the gravy. You gonna pause and stop the whole show because you're so God's gift to green earth that you can't dare feel disrespected by not, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And as we watch it, we realize like I was putting myself in a hell because I'm not showing up to dinner free and excited. I'm like, who gonna disrespect me? Who gonna talk to me right? Who gonna do this? And I'm creating problems out of nothing. And so you're actually free. You're gonna free yourself up by stop trying to guard your heart so much. And like, you know, you're like, oh, there's certain people I just can't be around and this and that. Not they're genuinely hurting you, doing things. I get it. But as you mature, it's like, you can't hurt me. You can't touch me. And that is freedom, not controlling everything around you because you'll never win that game. Thank you for that, fam. And that bonus rant. What you got on that, Great?
Man, shoot. I don't got nothing. You stole it all.
I sure did. I ran my motherfucking mouth. I sure
stole
did.
It all. It reminded me of those boundaries. You know, everybody talks about boundaries nowadays. And that I think that definitely hit on it for sure. It's not to say it's healthy. It's not healthy. Boundaries are healthy. But, you know, at some point it keeps you from being around people you need to be around who actually need what's in you. But because of your uncomfortability, it makes it difficult. I typically like to just ask the question, what's the bigger, what really matters here? Like that to me has helped a lot, especially things that maybe I've tried to give myself permission to care about and hold on to. What really matters? Your way or the way? Like what
the way, right?
What really matters? So, you crushed that. Y'all all passed him offering plates, man, for sure. Bryce, I believe you're thinking about Proverbs 3 verse 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, he will direct your paths. Let me know if that was something that you were thinking of there. But man, I think that's it, man. I think that's the last question.
Wow.
Didn't see any, man. So wow. Although we come
right
to the end of the road, I just can't let go.
This has been a journey, man, and we drag everything out. So yeah, Nick, was that yours? The last question? Whoever had it, it was great. But like I said, this is the last question for how everything looks now, y'all. But y'all know the wilderness had to die, right, for the promised land season to take over, and it's more of that. It's not like we're done, we're going away. We still love y'all, and we'll probably be more active in this type of stuff. But just please stay tuned. I was hoping to have every single detail for you, so I give you direct next steps. But I think as long as you guys are plugged into the channel, if you're on YouTube or Twitch, and Maverick.tv, if you guys are plugged into everything we're doing there, but the Discord for sure will update you guys there. You'll know all of the next steps. Okay. So Thank you so much, y'all. Man, what a run. I don't just want to, like I said, I don't want to make it a big deal, but I also don't want to just run up out of here. Did you have any final words? Great.
Man,
big chapter, man.
It is. It's a chapter for me. I've been here since the whole series kicked off, not even necessarily being on this camera, but
that is crazy. You started on the other end,
man,
too.
I did. I started on the other end. I remember it started, I believe, in the September of 2020 was when I first caught the first couple episodes, and that was Worldview. You just finished up Worldview. I had just watched the third Worldview out of the whole series, so of course I went back and looked at the other two, and I remember I was like, man, who is this old Negro sitting here on this screen, man? And it was from that day on that I've been tremendously blessed in connection with you, Demetrius, and everybody else involved, man. It was a door I could not have opened myself. I didn't think about. And it's just been transformational to be a part of this, to be a part of you guys' lives in any kind of way, to speak to you where you are, to allow a ninja like me, who is still earning his stripes in this life, man, and to be able to speak into your life in any kind of way from a biblical perspective, allowing me to be equipped with the communicative skills and teaching, the gifts that are in me, man. I can't say thank you enough. I've grown a lot here with you guys. From doing the homeworks with you to watching these things with you, digesting it with you, having questions with you, conversing with you. This has been amazing. And I shout out to you, Dion, for allowing me on this space. PD, of course, for just allowing, he said, Deacon Walker, I'm tired. I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful for you all. And, this is definitely a transition into something greater. And, always let this be a good lesson. If I could say anything to it, is never allow what you're called to do become such an idol in your life that you're no longer willing to lay it down for a season to what God is calling you to next. That is so huge. Something I've been kind of just configuring as a lot of these transitions are happening, even in this space. It's just like, God has called me to some things. God has placed in me gifts to steward, but don't allow the gift to become your God. Don't allow that to become something that causes you to forget who gave you the gift. And when his grace in hand is no longer on something, that means it's time to go. That means it's time to transition. And it doesn't mean that it's the end. It just means that there's something else to put your hands to steward for a season like this. There's a time and season for everything under the sun. And, it's just better to just live in that space of obedience, man. And so whatever God may be calling you to try to lay down, transition from, walk away from, not being on that spiritual milk no more. Gotta get that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's levels, man. It's levels, man. So just be willing, be hearing, be listening to that. And keep walking with God, man. That's just it. I'm saying this like this last time y'all even gonna see me, but I'm like just those are my final thoughts, man. But I'm appreciative, man, to everybody, and everything this has been. It's been dope.
Same here, man. We love you guys. It's been an awesome journey. I guess with that, great. Sign us off for the last time.
Well, it's nice knowing y'all. No,
he said, nice knowing you. Great. Yeah, we out, man.
We appreciate you guys so much tuning in, even to the last episode, man. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Be present with those around you. And until next time, whenever that next time might be, is Luke around? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
It took me 4 years, but we got there. Come on, man. All right. Well, until next time, whenever that might be, definitely catch us in the Discord for conversations daily, all those kinds of things and more. Until then, God first. God bless.